I will call to order the Town of Old Saybrook Zoning Commission special meeting agenda for Monday, April 13th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Town Hall, second floor, conference room, 302 Main Street, Old Saybrook. If we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Roll call. Myself, Mark Caldarella, Chair, Derek Kennedy, Vice Chair, John Henry, Secretary, Laura Gray and Robin Kelly, regular commission members, and alternate members, Mike Kelly, Brenda Dyson, and Casey Costellahan, who's virtual. Tonight is a workshop. Discuss possible amendments to problematic zoning regulations. Chris, I'll turn it over to you, please.
So these are regulations we've been talking about for over a year that kind of keep getting added onto it, and we get busy with other business, so they're put to the side. So the thought is we go through, see what we can agree to, postpone anything that's going to be a larger discussion for another meeting, and adopt the things that really need to get adopted for deadlines and so forth. So everybody got the text in advance. 3 of you responded. Thank you. I've taken your comments. I'm going to kind of start it incorporating them. So the first is section 9 definitions. There were some issues with half story. I don't really believe there was an issue with half story when we talked about this a few months ago in a meeting, but the one thing that came up was a habitable attic, where I think we all agreed that that didn't make sense.
Correct.
I mean, if
I did.
you really want to dig into this or some of the other ones, we can postpone it, but
No, I believe at this point of what we've discussed so far. Bless you. And oh, by the way, everybody at the table has ability to comment. Okay. Is that for the first step, removing that would be acceptable and continue with what we've had for ongoing, because I think a furthering discussion, and Robin, you had sent over some information regarding that as well, is going to be a much more lengthy process that probably will take a few conversations to get to the right place. For the sake of what we're trying to accomplish this evening, I think that simple fix would be a good first step. I don't know what everybody else feels about that.
Why was it in this?
Why was what
What was
happened?
the original, intent, keeping that in? I don't mind moving it, I just want to understand what the mindset was,
Why it was there
why
in the
they
first
put it
place?
in the first place.
so there was a ZBA matter where 2 things kind of got hung up with the definition of half story. And then we were looking at story and the definition of half story. So we went in and we looked at it and said, okay, well, what's a habitable attic? So an attic is the space between the ceiling beams of the top story and the roof rafters. And then we talked about that a little bit, and they said, well, why would it be habitable? And then there was a discussion, well, do we need it at all?
So you could make it an attic into a finished room, right?
Right, so
Right.
we,
I don't understand why they did put it in there, that it had to be habitable condition versus an
I think 'cause-
unfinished attic you can use for storage, which I'm fine with too.
I think because they're counting it towards gross floor area if it's habitable, but we count it towards gross floor area if it's habitable or not habitable,
Right.
because you may use it for an attic.
Right.
And Joanne may buy your house and make it into a home office. So does it matter if it's habitable or not, if it meets, the definition?
Birds come out, but I'm just.
That's, I think, the bottom line to it.
Wasn't the other issue regarding the footprint of the half story over the floor immediately below?
That was how to define it, and
Define
then there was the interpretation by the commission to do the 50%, and that's where we get into the bigger
Yeah.
Okay.
discussion that we're not gonna fix
That's
tonight.
fine.
I'm just thinking of, like there's some houses in Fenwick with a turret.
Mhm.
So that the turret itself is a 3-story turret.
Well, it depends on how, I mean, Fenwick has different regulations,
Right,
but
yeah.
depending on if it's a story or a half story, so.
Okay.
If it-
And I really can't think of any turrets in the.
Castle.
Well,
That's probably grandfather.
she calls it the turlot. That's what her toilet is.
Jeez.
Can I just throw a question
yeah,
out there
Sure.
about this for, I guess, for future consideration? Do we need to have this in here? Like, why don't we just measure the height of buildings, like limit the height based on height, but measure it halfway up the roof to account for sloped roofs?
So this has nothing to do with the measurement of height. It has to do with, we only allow 2.5 stories or one
But
and a half
why?
stories. So I think the intent was so you didn't have 3-story big boxy buildings to kind of have some peaks on roofs and so
Right,
forth.
but the same thing is accomplished with a height limitation.
No, because you have to have 50% of the floor area below for a half story. So if your second floor is 1,000 square feet, the maximum it could be in a half story is 500, which would then make it so you didn't have a 3-story, 3,000 square foot structure.
Yeah, I understand, but I've seen in a lot of places where they measure the building height to halfway up the roof so that way you can't like have that workaround with the height. And then you
So
don't
we
have
have
to measure
two
number.
definitions of height. The normal regular definition is measured by the height of the height from the existing natural grade on an average. And in
I
the
understand.
gateway, and then gateway is from, so this doesn't really have anything to, I mean, I kind of get where you're going with it, but that's.
What I'm saying is that I think it's unnecessary to have both in zoning in general. But again, something to think about for the future, not something we need to delve deeply into right now.
So beyond that, we agree?
Yeah, I would agree with you. The conversation about half story is gonna be lengthy. And almost as many people sitting at a table is gonna be the number of opinions or thoughts, I should say, rather than opinions. But for the sake of this evening and what we're looking to accomplish if we're all okay with removing habitable from the definition.
CBA better?
We're good? No, we don't have, so, I was saying, John asked a question, I said no to. So, everybody, okay?
That's fine.
Casey, you okay? All right. Okay? We accept
Okay.
that, all right?
Pergola, as most of you are aware, we've had issues with people taking advantage of the size of a pergola and pergolaing the entire yard or 600, 700 square feet up to property lines because it's exempt from structures. So we had discussed regulation limiting it to 200 square feet, attached or detached from a structure when it's 10 feet from the line, and any pergola of 201 square feet or more, attached or detached, would need a zoning permit.
Yeah, I don't think it says that. It sounds like the problem is the pergolas are too big. And when you talk about a pergola not attached to anything, you're saying either one that's 200 square feet or less, may be attached or detached and blah, blah, blah. But then you don't talk about an unattached pergola that's greater than 201 square feet. And then the last sentence says a pergola of 201 square feet or more that is attached to a structure is considered part of the structure, will be considered a structure. Wouldn't you just say a pergola greater than 201 square feet is a structure, shall be considered a structure? So then I don't understand why it's important if it's attached or unattached.
Because I agree but the way our applicants work, they come up with different, so having it clear that it's detached or attached.
No, but can't you just say?
Detached or attached is part of a structure. Now that
Can't you
makes,
say a pergola greater than 200 feet is considered a structure? Because right now, what if you have?
Whether it's attached or
Yeah.
detached.
Yeah,
correct?
because right now, if you have a unattached pergola greater than 200 square feet, it's not banned. It's not mentioned. So I think I would just say a pergola of 200 square feet, skip all the rest, will be considered a structure, and take out or more
So,
that is attached to a structure is considered to be.
so the
part of
last,
the
you're
structure.
talking about the last line,
Yeah.
right? So a pergola of 200,
and
one square foot
Or more.
or more, attached or
No,
detached.
Will be considered a structure. You just delete
After
everything
the
except the
more.
last 5
Yeah, you
words.
delete or more that is attached to any structure is considered.
Does it
part of
leave
the
it gray as to whether it should be attached or detached?
No, 'cause what's the difference?
The sentence before
structure.
said, the sentence
No,
before
it's
talks
a
about.
structure, but
Right.
for clarity purposes, we're
Oh, I see.
saying you can
I
have
think
it
it's-
attached
yeah.
or
You can say-
detached,
You're right.
then there's no gray
There's no
area.
gray.
Or unless we're looking at that the wrong way.
So how will it read?
It would read, a pergola of 200 square feet,
201.
201 or more, that is attached or not attached, will be considered a structure.
Okay.
Nope, that's good.
That work?
Get rid of the word.
Well, I got a question. I got another question. About the definition portion of it. And the thing that's missing in my mind is about a gazebo. Because this clearly talks about a pergola as being open top with vines on it.
Mhm.
And
Right.
they're now selling pergolas with canvas covers that you can pull over for shade.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is, I have a gazebo. It's got a hard roof on it. Where does that fit?
It's a structure
If
and it
it's,
requires a zoning permit.
if it's,
So
if it's not attached to anything?
right now it's a structure, it's an accessory structure. So we had an exemption, so technically, if you go to Home Depot and buy a gazebo you set up in your yard and it has a full roof that you can't see through, it's a structure and you need to get a zoning permit.
Even if it's not permanent?
Everything's considered permanent because how many people put a temporary shed in their yard?
Well, no, I'm not talking about sheds.
No, but
Temporary.
So it's an accessory, so
Temporary.
accessory structures are sheds, gazebos.
Because I had two of them blow away. So your shed doesn't.
Temporary for you.
Exactly. Well, that's my point. The things that Ocean State sells and, they're light canvas roofs. They are not permanent, they're temporary. And based on that, is that a structure?
That's temporary.
And then it crosses the line, so now I got one bolted down, so it won't blow away. I'm just,
That's why it says pergolas will not have walls, windows, doors, or any type of roof covering
that's a pergola.
other than
Pergola.
natural.
I'm just asking, why don't we include gazebos?
Because they're more permanent, and this says here pergolas are not considered structures, so they're exempt.
And they have a closed top.
So what happens is when we have things that are exempt, it means it doesn't require a zoning permit. So you
Right.
go and you put a little pergola and you put vines on it in your yard. You don't have to come in for a zoning permit. It's not a structure. It doesn't have to meet the setbacks and you can put it up. The problem is there's been some abuse of the pergola situation where we've had 800 square foot pergolas going to people's property lines. And then the next thing you know, it gets warm, so they throw some covering on it, it comes off. So the intent was to limit the size, still allow people to have that exemption and be able to put a pergola up, but kind of put some limitations on it. So someone's entire yard isn't a
Mhm.
pergola.
That's why we're doing this. This is the definition here.
Right.
And it doesn't say they're exempt.
Only if it's over 200.
Right, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So my only question was about the gazebo portion.
Chris, what did we do with people who have a retractable roof?
On
Is that
pergolas?
allowed? Yeah, I've seen
But
it.
it's trackable awning?
Yeah,
It's almost like an awning is
Oh,
underneath. It's
the
not an
awning.
awning. It's actually pergola. You have
Well,
it.
technically, it can be defined as a structure. If you read the definition of
Right.
structure,
Right.
but we're solving one problem at a time here.
No, I know, but I've come across them. I know exactly what they have. They put that screen up in case it rains or when the sun comes out to get some shade. I don't know, if is that a violation now? Or would be a violation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So structures, we have what's called an accessory structure. So in a residential zone, it's typically a structure of 400 square feet or less that gets a reduced setback. It has reduced height requirements and so forth. And that could be your shed, your potting shed, your she shed, your gazebo. Everybody has all kinds of creative accessory structures now. And those require permits unless it's a shed of 120 square feet on a residential property and there's no other accessory structures on the lot. Which that we kind of talk about later.
So not to beat a dead horse, I'm okay, I just, good question.
No, it's good. It's how you learn.
Casey, anything?
I have a question. The part where it says a pergola of 200 square feet or less may be attached or detached from a structure when it is located more than 10 feet. That sentence, is that intended to say that a pergola of less than 200 square feet has to be at least 10 feet from the property line and
Yes.
25 feet from a street line?
So the initial text that I wrote said it couldn't be attached. And someone brought up a point and said, well, if you have a pergola and you can attach it to your shed or attach it to the side of your house, you're going to want to so it doesn't blow away. Why wouldn't you want to do that? But if it's attached to the structure, it becomes part of the building, is subject to setbacks and coverage. So you can attach it to your house or other structure, but the 10 feet makes it doesn't count coverage, and you're not allowed to put it all the way to the property line.
So if it's detached, under no circumstance can you come closer than 10 feet. Is that right? And 25 feet from the street line?
Right,
Yes, yes.
So could we just say a pergola of 200 square feet must be at least 10 feet from any other line and 25 feet from any street line? Does that still accomplish the same thing?
I think you could say that and just say it may be attached or detached, and it must be located more than 10 feet. And the other thing, then 25.
25. That's fine.
Attached or detached for a structure and must be 10 feet from
Yeah, that's
any other line or 25 from the street.
it's okay.
So you're taking when it is located more than, and just putting the word and
And it must be,
it must
or
be,
shall be, or
and it shall be,
Will be.
Will be.
will be.
It's just okay, are we all okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on. Definition.
All right, so one of our meetings, we had an issue because somebody said, what was a shopping center? So the parking regulations, there's no definition of shopping center, and actually this whole top should be underlined. Other than it was a group of no less than 4 businesses and offices. But then you have to go to the parking regulations to see that the definition of shopping center is that it's on 2 acres of land and not less than 20,000 square feet of gross floor area. So the thought was to add to the definition of shopping center the standard that's in the parking section that no one can find to fix it. So then, is that clear so far? And then I'll,
So we're
Around.
changing 20,000 to 28.
no, that's my notes. So you've got my notes.
are we up to shopping plaza yet?
No, it's, are we clear with shopping center before we get to shopping plaza? So the one thing, so we talked about, well, you have these smaller strip malls that don't really have a definition, and should we give them a combined parking ratio similar to we do shopping centers? So if you have 4 units coming in, 1 retails, 1 per 175, you have a restaurant, 1 space for every 3 seats, you have XYZ and so forth. The one thing though on that I noted is that It should say a shopping plaza will be located on a lot of no less than 2 acres to be the opposite of the minimum lot size of 2, no less than 2. On a lot of less than 2.
Excuse me, minimum of 2 acres?
So a shopping center says you have to have 2 acres. Shopping plaza would have to have less than 2 acres.
So the maximum lot size is 2 acres.
No, because 2 acres is a shopping center. A shopping center is 2 acres or more.
Right.
So 1,900, 19,999 and below.
I'm not sure I'm following it. You might have corrected what I was saying, but a shopping plaza is defined as less than 2 acres. And then in the parking, you say, you know, you get 1 spot for every 225 feet. I'm not sure you need the last sentence under shopping plaza because you're never going to have a maximum lot size of 2 acres of land if the definition of plaza is always going to be less than 2 acres, and that includes the building. So I would think you could live with, or I'm not sure what the purpose of the last sentence is. I just think the definition.
Which the last.
And the shopping plaza.
Plaza, because I think your definition in parking covers, you know, how many parking spots you need, and I'm not sure.
Okay,
What shopping plaza adds to the party.
so you think you should just take the 2 acres out?
Yeah.
We have this thing where you have, 16 houses or more, 16 or less houses, but what happens with 16? So that's why I kind of focus on.
Leave a gap.
Well, back to your first statement that people can't find it in the parking regulations. That's
So
why
they
it's here,
should
right?
leave it here.
No, we're moving it. So if you look below, section 62.4.6D6, that's what we currently have. See the strike through?
Yeah, no, I'm mixing up because you're talking about just a shopping plaza. You're
Right.
not talking about the parking up there.
So see, this is our current rig. So this defines what a shopping center is, and it has the acreage and all that stuff in there. And the current one, it doesn't have it. So this adds it into there.
Gotcha.
So what happens if it's exactly, this is getting into your problem. What if it's exactly
2.
2 acres?
That's why a shopping plaza definition has to be defined. This will be located on a lot of less than 2 acres. So it makes it 19,999 square feet would be the maximum for any shopping plaza. I know that's a mouthful.
Okay, I was thinking the last sentence was referring to parking, so I have no problem with it.
So the first 2 are definitions, and those are the additions.
So we're okay with the shopping plaza as modified?
Yeah.
Which is the definition, which is an addition. We didn't have
We
it
didn't have it
before,
before.
so it's new.
And then just on the very last line on page 2, where the applicant may allocate the area, does that mean like include or exclude? I'm not sure what allocate means.
So we've
It
had,
sounds like it excludes it. It sounds like you want to say.
or we could say
exclude.
may designate. Okay, so we had a gas station recently that had a storage area, it was a walk-in cooler or whatever, and the commission said, well, if it's enclosed storage, then they wouldn't count it towards the parking. So I think the one thing, and this is another we should add, is dedicated for enclosed storage, not for customer access. So you help to reduce the parking requirement. So say somebody has a butcher shop and they just need one little counter and a little area for prep, but they have a huge meat cooler. It doesn't mean you're going to have more customers in there. You know what I mean? There are bigger people shopping in there. You just need more space for your storage.
So wouldn't exclude be the word? That they don't have to count that area, so the applicant may exclude the area within such building dedicated for enclosed storage.
Fine with me.
Why are we limiting that to, the 10,000 square feet? Shouldn't that just be for any, regardless of size of a of an application if there's space that it could, not towards,
You're saying towards a shopping center.
yeah.
Or,
yeah, in
are
this
you
case-
referring to a standalone
In
store?
this case, but in general, I mean, I recognize and I'm trying
Mhm.
to focus specifically on this. So I guess I'll just focus on this. Why are we limiting it to 10,000 unless we're just clearly staying within the shopping plaza, which would then be redundant if it's already a shopping plaza, would it then be the 10,000 square feet or no? We have to say that.
We say it to define it.
Okay, so then my only question, as long as I'm staying within the bounds of this particular issue, is why not just have that for any applicant? And I guess that's what the definition is saying, so fine, great. See how I just worked that myself out?
Okay, but now I'm confused because the gas station, that wasn't 10,000 square feet. Less than 10. We're defining shopping center, but it came up. I know it wasn't a shopping plaza, but you have these situations where it comes up that you've got a building and someone comes in for a use and they're never going to meet the parking requirement, especially these smaller ones like non-conforming gas stations or these little strip plazas. And they say, okay, well, I need all this area for storage. I'm never going to meet I don't need it for customers. I need a giant walk-in for my restaurant, but not necessarily, to feed people. We're not using it for customers. That was the reason it came up. And then,
I like this spot.
But then, well, no, because I'm now back with you, then the littler businesses need it more, but you're
But
only applying it to
But
buildings
this is
over
only,
10,000.
We're on-
this is only applying it to shopping plazas of
Yeah.
4 or more.
do you want me to take a stab at writing something for the smaller businesses?
I just think, yes,
Why does it have, well, I'm picking up your point, like,
Yeah.
why is it limited to 10,000? If you have, why can't an 8,000 square foot building in a shopping plaza count its storage, not count its storage, exclude its storage? I mean, you're saying the littler businesses need it more.
Well, I mean, that's what I just was dealing with the shopping center and that.
Yeah, so I think you could just say for any building in the shopping plaza and skip the square footage.
yeah, anything that's not customer used, I don't think should go toward the calculation for parking.
Or it's just little businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't we address those, Chris, in the standalone
Right.
definitions and
Right.
other elements of zoning that are in the book?
So then if
So-
we needed to say.
And we're not saying that on a single, like, for example, we did that on that.
So you have.
The
a
gas
timer.
station that we had wanted storage. We said you could have the storage. It doesn't include it in the square footage. It doesn't impact your parking because it's supporting your.
Yeah, but like Laura said, that gas station wasn't 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, I know, but this is as it relates to 4 or more in a shopping plaza, not an individual piece of
So-
property with one building.
Right now, if you calculate parking,
Yeah, if what if one of the 4 buildings in the shopping plaza is 8,000 square feet?
it's the whole,
I mean.
it's the whole size of the plaza.
Oh,
If-
Okay.
but then,
Parking is based on the plaza, not each.
Joanne, let me just, but it says if any building in the shopping center.
yeah, for any building which is 10,000 square feet, if it's talking about one of the 4 buildings in the shopping.
That's how I
plaza.
interpret. So you can have multiple buildings, like you look at Big Y,
Yeah,
it's a shopping center, but some of those smaller buildings, like if you look on Route 1, like where Saybrook Seafood is that, we would call them the shopping plaza. Instead of going through the individual ratio count, we would group it into the
go by the
220
square footage.
the 225 square feet. So rather than saying, okay, we have 5,000 square feet of retail at one space for 175, 2,000 square feet of this at one space for 400, we just group it together and kind of that the uses all work out.
And
But
then,
if you have that ratio of one space for every 225 feet, what is this at? What does this talk about that's different?
Does everybody understand how to calculate parking?
Well, it says it's a ratio of 1 parking space for every 225 feet of gross floor area in the shopping plaza,
Mhm.
I don't see how they intersect. I'm just not understanding how they intersect.
You wouldn't count the walk-in cooler as gross floor area, so it would lessen the demand on the parking.
But why is the 10,000 square feet important?
Because that's the size of the plaza.
But you can't have, then you'd never have one building being more than 10,000 square feet. If you have four, if all four buildings are crammed to 10,000 square feet. that's
For
how-
any one building. Does that make it clear?
Could we,
Says same
It's like a-
for any building.
It buys really big, so I assume it's.
So that's all under a shopping center.
Okay.
So they have 2 acres. All of that is under the shopping center calculation of one space per 225, whether there's 10 buildings on the lot, no matter what the square footage is. So the thought was to take,
But when you're talking about the shopping plaza, one parking space for 225 feet,
So-
so gross floor area.
So the
shopping plaza, that's the entire gross of all the 4 buildings added
so
together.
the difference is a shopping plaza does not have to be on a minimum of 2 acres. That's the difference. So you're giving the same relief to a shopping plaza that you would to a shopping center and not have the 2 acres.
I have, if we're doing that, why do we need to differentiate? So are we giving them, we're giving them both the same parking ratio?
Yeah.
Could we just define like a minimum building size of 10,000, a minimum total square footage on the lot of 10,000 square feet or something like that? Like, what's the purpose in saying in differentiating this little one versus the big one if the parking's going to be the same?
Because the mix of the individual stores, whether they're in a center or a plaza, depending on the type of business it is gonna have different square foot, gross square foot calculations when you back out, freezers, coolers, storage area for backstock and things of that nature. And there's a difference based on the overall size of the plaza or acreage. If I'm explaining that right, Chris?
So we got multiple things here.
Does the 10,000 refer to the plaza and not the building?
It refers any buildings, a building.
Yeah,
So you could have a lot
you could have. 4
with multiple
buildings.
plazas on it, and the buildings for any building in the shopping center, which is 10,000 square feet or more, for the purpose of determining parking for the building, the applicant may allocate the area within the building dedicated for storage in accordance with the ratio for enclosed storage of these regulations.
So are you saying, when you say building, you don't necessarily mean business? There could be.
Building, so you could have 5 buildings on a lot. So it's per building.
But I don't see how the 10,000 helps you.
Yeah.
If you have a tiny little business and that's who we're trying to help more, I don't understand.
I gave a bad example by saying the gas station.
But
So-
it was actually a good example because it was't 10,000 square feet.
Or was it,
Yeah,
or
but
is it a
it's not
plaza
shopping
or
plaza.
a center?
That's the whole difference.
Yeah.
It's not in the plaza.
See, I don't know square footage but what if there's an 8,000 square foot building? So that's a smaller business than a 10,000 square foot building. So wouldn't you want to help the little businessman, man or men or women,
I know.
people? I just don't see the 10,000 doesn't make any sense to me, or I just don't understand it.
You said it's redundant.
Well, no, it's just, we specifically talked about small businesses, so why limit it to a building?
But it's a plaza, so you're having between 10 and 20,000 square feet with multiple tenants. Anything less than 10,000 square feet would then have the regulation based on the use.
But then I think it's kind of the building could be 4 different businesses. Each business is gonna have its own storage area. So it's kind of mixing up building with individual businesses. So it's for any building which is more than 10,000 square feet. The applicant may allocate areas to each business, you know, and not count storage, but not the area within such building. You could have 4 different storages with 4 different businesses. So you're not, it would seem like you could allocate areas within such businesses, dedicated businesses in the building. Then, but it only applies to a building of 10,000 square feet. But then you look at the individual businesses and what the individual businesses have for storage.
So right now, if you're on less than 2 acres.
Yeah.
And you have a restaurant in a building,
How many square feet is it?
10,000.
Okay.
It's one space for 175 square feet, and you have another 10,000 square foot that has a number of retail that are one space for every 3 seats for the restaurant, one space for every 175 for the restaurant. Then you have another building with an office. It's one space for
But how many
200.
square footage is that? I mean, at some point, you're gonna have you might have a building that's less than 10,000 square feet. Why should they be punished and not be allowed to back out their storage?
But they would all be on the same lot.
Well, it's not clear to me. Maybe you know.
So what if we just scrap that idea, keep shopping center the way that it is, and then just put the definition of shopping center, take it out of parking and put it into shopping center?
But then where do you say they don't have to count their storage?
That was something I thought of at the last minute.
But I think that sounds good, but I just think it should apply to all businesses or all buildings.
Derek?
I'm gonna make up a language and I want you to tell me good or bad. Because it combines everything and it could be put somewhere. For any building in a shopping center or plaza, or shopping plaza, but now we have the 2 definitions. For the purposes of determining the parking spaces required for such building, the applicant may allocate the area within such building dedicated for enclosed storage in accordance with the ratio for enclosed storage use under section blah, 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 blah. So you're saying, because you're saying the same thing, you're putting the same language in 2 different places. One says shopping center, one says shopping plaza. Can we just combine it? And I deleted, in my thing, I deleted the 10,000 square foot and I added the center and the plaza in one. So you're just.
I think this has too big of an impact to try to kind of wing it and fix it.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting in it because now we're looking at,
Into the,
we're kind of getting in the weeds on it. So what if we just take shopping center and pull the text out of shopping center parking requirements and move it in there, and we just abandon shopping plaza?
for the time being.
So where does that leave what would be a shopping plaza? Like if somebody on a group of businesses on less than 2 acres, are they now stuck with?
Their current regulation, you break it down use by use.
Right.
I like the shopping plaza.
So could we talk about this further in the future? Because I think it's
That's
a good
kind of
idea.
what I'm saying is we're
Okay.
trying to rush in and throw in, well, so what
Okay.
if we did that or the building? And I mean, everybody's got great ideas
Okay.
Gonna take more discussion. I think
for
we need to have
discussion than.
Some examples too that would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
Can I just throw?
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
got one last
Yeah.
comment. You kept the shopping plaza language. It says the parking is 1 for every 225 feet, period. Applicant may delete the area used for storage.
For any size you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just skipping that whole intro part.
If it's in less than 2 acres of land.
But
Well,
that's
it's
under
under
the
shop-
definition.
It's under shopping plaza. Now it's gonna say parking is 1 space for every 225 feet. However, applicant may delete the area you've dedicated for
For
storage.
this case.
You just bring it up and
I
That's
combine
kind of to
it.
the point.
I like that.
Makes sense?
No, she's there. She just went
Oh,
off
just
boarding, video.
Yeah, I think that's a good synopsis. And I think if we put it into a separate conversation about Plaza,
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, 'cause
and give it the dedicated
it's
time.
various benefits.
Yeah,
Like-
it needs some definition, it needs some clarity. And that's why we do this. You know, we don't always get it right the first time anyhow. But it starts the dialogue. That's good.
So do you have exactly what you're gonna do?
No, because I'm gonna have to wordsmith it. I guess the only thing, going back to the 10,000, is saying, and I think this was to Robin's point, you have a building of 8,000 square feet of the 10,000 is a supermarket, and you use most of 4,000 of it for storage. When the supermarket goes out of business and you have no more retail, or, you know, you want to use that for something else, you've shorted yourself from parking to change the use. Say they have to break up the space. That's what kind of concerns me about rushing into it, is we say, okay, you have this one great, I mean, like, look at Smithland
Yeah.
and say it had a quarter of the parking, and you know what I mean? And then somebody goes, oh, I want to put a movie theater there. And you go, oh, well, sorry, you don't have the parking because this building had all walk-in coolers, so we didn't count it. That's my fear with rushing into the plaza.
Good point.
Okay,
So we'll hold that.
we'll hold it. Put that with the half story conversation.
Okay, so minor accessory structures, or structures, the definition of structures has exemptions for structures. We already talked about pergolas of 200 square feet or less are exempt. And then we created a regulation. There were situations where people had, on a tiny lot, we exempted sheds, and because they were going to the ZBA and they couldn't get a variance for a shed and they had no storage. And, you know, in areas where you have, you know, beach lots and things like that. So then people were just having them delivered, ZBA didn't give them the variance for whatever reason. So the commission decided at one point, if you have a shed of 120 square feet or less, or 10 feet in height, no closer to the line, that it's exempt. You don't need a zoning permit. They can just go out and deliver it. Well, the problem is we have some phenomenal applicants. So we want to just clarify that you can't have more than 2 and get them for free. Well, no, it says I can have as many as I want. And as clear as you write things, sometimes that's where you see I write something over, attached and detached, attached for, because this is one that's been on the books. So it's just to clarify it.
I'm okay with it.
Shopping center, bed and breakfasts are allowed. But the problem is we don't allow the primary residence needed for the bed and breakfast. So you can't have a bed and breakfast because a primary, so I don't know how that happened. So it's just more a cleanup. Section 51 site plan. There were some new laws that went into effect saying that we should just take into account or have somewhere in our regulations some resiliency measures. I mean, I know extreme heat, I mean, we are under a little fire watch, I guess, drought, intense precipitation, flooding. So this was just to kind of address that we have something in there.
Because we were delinquent based on current guidelines.
Okay.
You okay with that? Okay.
Okay, so we've been having some issues that we can't get plans that you can actually scale out so we can do compliance reviews. So this would add floor plans, some language requiring a consistent scale. And I actually kind of tweaked the last sentence to say architectural elevations, printed drawings, and floor plans will use a consistent architectural scale to allow reviewers to measure on the plan.
Is that clear? Would they know what that means? Does that
So-
mean every page is the same, or does that mean that we have a scale that we want you to use when you say
So
consistent?
the thing that's interesting with architects and different designers is they all kind of have their own way of doing it.
The bottom line is, can I take an architectural scale like you have and just go through no matter what it is and be able to go plan by plan and actually have a way to measure it versus having nothing on there other than the dimensions they provide. So I actually I had an architect in town take a look at it. And she said she thought that was reasonable, because she goes, everybody does something a little bit different. I said, yeah, we know.
But if you say consistent, do they know what that means, consistent? Is there a consistent measurement, or is it a consistent to what the town's asking as a measurement? And I don't care, I just wanna make sure that everyone knows what consistent means.
It means that everybody uses the same scale.
Great, as long as everyone
And
knows.
so that we as commissioners are looking at the same thing on every application that comes in. And we're not saying, well, this one's different, and that one doesn't have it. There's no scale on this one. We've had that recently. And
Yeah,
it gets very confusing. For me, it gets very confusing.
but the different drawings could have different scale.
Yeah, from page to page almost.
Well, yeah, everyone's got a scale on it, tells you what it is, so they could be different.
So should we specify exactly what scale? Is that the description there, architectural scale?
Let the designer have a little leeway, but have something that we can actually take an architectural scale like you will have and be able to measure
Okay.
something that doesn't have a measure.
Yeah,
Scale on a-
so we can take our
Yep.
things and you have an applicant, you're an applicant, all three of you, and each one of them, we can use the same format to figure out what they're telling us.
Is there an industry standard? When you-
They all do it a little bit different, and that's why I consulted.
The point is when you use consistent, if you said consistent with the standard accounting practice but there seems not to be.
So if I said a quarter inch, it's kind of a style.
Okay.
And I mean, that's what I talked to.
Quarter inch to
But it's, okay,
So I'll just get consistent now, keep it at this.
okay.
but we must have scaled drawings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or larger. I put if somebody comes in with something smaller,
Small, yeah, that's not possible. We're looking at a new development or a new large property or something like that. We need that for us to do our job.
and then the other thing that came up out of this is we don't require them. Perspective drawing. You know what a perspective drawing is?
Each one that goes to the horizon, it shows the drawing high in the front and tapers out to a horizon in the back.
It's like a multi-dimensional. So I said it's encouraged, but I don't think we would want to require them for every,
I don't think so, no.
it seemed a little.
That's an expense that
You don't
they
need-
don't
Yeah.
need to go through.
All right, so we're good with that. All right, so site plan requirements, we've had a few things that have come up. So we've had applicants who are coming in who, with large projects that have not gone to the health department, and there's nothing in the regulations that says we can stop them. So say someone came in with a new shopping center, we go through all the public hearings, we do all the work, they spend all the money, and then the health department goes, sorry,
Yeah.
why are we wasting everyone's time?
And money.
And money. And then the other one is fire water tanks. I think everybody here is familiar with fire water tanks in that discussion. I'm waiting for more comments from the fire chief and fire department. They'll get to wait. I've asked them several times, but I've sent them this, and then we would amend the regulations for public improvements and the subdivision so that everything is conditioned or consistent.
But we move forward with what we have here, we amend it whenever that information comes, which,
I think they're okay with it, but
yeah,
we still have to go
You
through
have
the
to have
whole
something,
process
right.
in that, but this is,
so we're saying that if you come in with an application and it's not CRAD approved, it's an incomplete application and therefore not accepted. Just to make clear. Which we could do, the name escapes me, what do we do it when there's not? They can come back in without having,
incomplete.
deemed incomplete, but isn't there another terminology? without prejudice, yeah, without prejudice. Which means they don't have to go through all the fees and everything else all over again.
Isn't
Okay.
that where Whole Foods left off? They never went to CRAD?
Not sure what
We're not sure what they're doing.
what's going on there. So it's
So
probably best-
roosters.
Roosters.
Wait, can
So-
I ask one question before we do roosters?
Mm-hmm.
Quickly,
You sure you want roosters, don't you?
I know. In the opening paragraph, like the added language at the beginning of 51.6.5, where it's like lays
Page
out
5?
Page 4 or 5?
page 4.
Okay.
The part the commission requires that written reports, and it like specifies the reports that might be required.
Trying
No,
to find
page
you.
5.
Are you on page
Page
Oh, is
5?
that
five?
page 5?
Oh, page
All right,
5.
sorry.
Okay.
1, 2.
Okay, first paragraph.
Yeah, yep.
Submit as part of the application.
Okay, we're there.
Okay, so my question is, these are requirements for, because I noticed it used to say site plan, now it's additional submission requirements. Are these, I think there are some things here that we could probably only really consider as a special permit or special exception. So would we only require those in those circumstances? Like traffic generation?
That's why it says reports which may be required.
Emphasis on maybe.
Okay, right. But I just want to make sure that
Not every applicant would have to do all of them.
right.
Right.
So the site plan, this
But like-
section encompasses the requirements for a special exception.
Right.
So
So what I'm saying is if somebody just had a site plan application, there are some things that I think we shouldn't require ever, or shouldn't be able to require ever. So that's what I'm,
that's what may is there for.
yeah.
We're not
so,
gonna
but I don't
require,
want, so like us as the zoning commission, what if we're like, well, we really want you to provide a report about this, but like legally it's a permitted site plan use, so we shouldn't be requiring it.
so the site plan section 51 outlines the requirements for a site plan submission. If it's a site plan submitted with a coastal site plan review, a site plan with a special exception, or just a flat out site plan. So we used to have it that all of these things were repeated in different sections. So we put it all into site plan. And for a special exception, you go to site plan. This is flat out site plan. That's why the word may is in there.
Yeah, but that's not so my question is, for a site plan only use, a permitted use in the zone,
Mm-hmm.
this leads me to believe that we have the discretion to decide for any application that they have to provide any of these studies. And that's not, in my opinion, entirely true.
I don't think anybody's trying to require anything more than the authority of a site plan. You go through, you check the box. So it's the type of application versus the submission requirements. So you have a site plan
I
application,
understand.
and you have a special, then you have the special exception, which requires a site plan, which these are all the same things. That's why it says may. Obviously, we can't do something beyond what the law allows us to do. And that was created that way years ago, not to repeat in each section.
I understand the whole thing. I get what you're saying. I just think it's not clear in here that like some of these things shouldn't be required under any site plan circumstance. They should only be required under it. Like, is that spelled out somewhere else that I'm not aware of? Or that I just didn't see?
So for any site plan application, we'd ask about sewer, water, fire protection, stormwater management. Only thing would be traffic. If there's an
the archaeological sites, right?
we'd probably still ask for that anyway. I mean, if there was a burial ground, we wouldn't just say
go ahead with your site plan.
But that wouldn't really be our jurisdiction.
It would be if we're gonna approve something that's gonna rip up a burial ground. And we'd have to address it. We wouldn't approve something that would dig up a historical site. We would ask them to say, can you just make sure there's nothing here with archaeological significance?
Right, but I believe there is a different entity that oversees the fact.
Right,
that
but we would ask them to
bodies-
provide that information to us. So we've had applications where we've had the state historic preservation offices, we have different groups go through species of special concern. We refer it out to them and ask the applicant and say, look, we know this site had certain things there. Can you just make sure we're not building on a burial ground?
Okay.
Is that? I mean, would you want to split out the site plan requirements from special permit?
Under,
Well, is there language we could say, just add in that says like as,
well, under site plan 51.2.1, waiver of site plan requirements, right? And it says, in addition to uses and activities specifically exempted from site plan requirements by these regulations, the commission may waive requirements for a site plan if it determines that a proposed activity will not affect existing, and it lists a number of items. A commission,
Waivers.
yeah, a commission decision to waiver site plan requirements may be made based on informal discussion of the activity at a regular or special commission meeting. Coastal site plans, where applicable, will not be waived. So that kind of gives the commission the wiggle room that you're looking for, I believe.
I'm not really looking for wiggle room for us. I'm looking for us not to like overstep.
Well, it allows us not to overstep, a better clarification, using your words.
If anything, I think we understep rather than overstep.
Yeah,
Unless it's something, you have a, like Post in Maine where the cemetery was, and that was a site plan review. We asked the applicant, were there any bodies that were of servants or other folks that are not marked outside of the cemetery, which was custom years ago.
So
And they provided that. I mean, we wouldn't require that on every single application. It just, as the circumstance applies.
So I have also dealt with that circumstance, and the concern that I have with that, less so with that, more with like the traffic generation. So then you have members of the public that are under the impression and come and say, you should be requiring this of the applicant. So you should be requiring a traffic study. You should be requiring this study when it's not something, and think that it can be a relevant component of our decision, when if it's a by right use, it's not a relevant component of the decision.
Right, but that's why it says may. So for example, you have applications that come in where the applicant provides something to address traffic, but not a full traffic report.
No, I understand that we have the discretion. I think that it gives people the impression that we have the right to require everything on this list, when I don't think that's always the case.
I think
It's not,
that's
it's fine. It's not that big of a deal.
well, I can pull the rest of it with the traffic. I just pulled out the parts to fix those sections. Yeah, I mean, and I see what you're saying.
but I think if I understand you, Casey, and correct me if I'm misstating what you said, someone on the outside telling us we should require something of an applicant is not part of our consideration. Correct?
No, but I can see someone pointing to this and saying, you can require this, like what if for over
Right.
something controversial. And I understand that the regulation says we have the right to waive that and blah, blah, blah. I just,
Right.
It seems like we have more discretion sometimes than we do.
So further along, and I didn't put the whole traffic, for all new non-residential development and for residential development proposals when required by the commission, a written report of the estimated amount and type of vehicular traffic generated on a daily basis, peak hours, blah, 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 blah.
for site plans involving 30 or more parking spaces or for any use which in the judgment of the commission may have a significant traffic impact, a traffic impact analysis prepared and recognized by a recognized traffic engineer will be submitted as part of the application. The report will include a discussion of the plan's compliance with the regulation concerning offsite. And then for historical, when a site plan submission is made for a site that includes a historic structure which is adjacent to a lot nearby that includes a historic structure is located in a historic district or has been identified by the state historic preservation officer or state archaeologist as historically or architecturally significant, the applicant will identify in the plans the nature and location of the historic and archaeological resources and will indicate the measures being protected. So each one of those things spelled out there has the terms of when the commission can, so it's not just that language, you just have to go
Was that
dig
the
further.
historical thing 51.5.10?
So if you go through, we kind of had this general text we were amending, but then as you get into each one of the things mentioned, water, sewage, water supply, fire protection, we talked about. So I didn't get into stormwater materials, hazardous materials, staging, historical, those go in full detail after. So it's beyond that blanket.
I'm just wondering what you just read.
It's further in. So I only gave you a segment pertaining to fire protection in that.
Okay.
The question is, what you just read to us is 51.
0.6.5 is where we started, but I only gave you the text and stopped at fire protection. If you go further than that,
Right.
it's got
It's
more pages of
Right.
See seven?
the details.
Oh.
It was seven.
Okay.
That's what she was reading.
What page are you on?
The historical. It's just. See,
There's no pages.
No,
What's the
51.
number?
right, but were you asking about the historical?
What she just read.
51.6.
Oh, here it
Point
is.
seven,
Here it is.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's the same section 51.6.5. I just stopped when we got to the fire and water. I didn't put all the other. So I think we're covered.
I see your point, Casey.
Yeah, no, that.
And I think as we
makes me
read
feel better.
deeper into this,
Yeah, okay.
it does cover what your concern is.
Yeah.
The clarity at the beginning is changing the word to may,
Yeah,
maybe, which just opens it up to interpretation. And there's 5 commissioners that can interpret it the same way or different ways.
right.
And I think history, at least from my years on the commission, is that we've been often more generous than we've been stingy.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's true.
Somewhat maybe stretching the regulations a little bit, but,
No, that's fine.
okay.
That's good.
So are we okay with may? May be required?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Chris.
All right, roosters.
Roosters.
Roosters. So many years ago, the zoning commission discussed prohibiting roosters. And they said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to discriminate. Roosters need a place to live too. So in my 25 years here, we've had some rooster and chicken incidents. So the main issue really is that you can have 5 or fewer chickens, which a chicken includes a hen or a rooster on pretty much any size lot, as long as you are meeting the setbacks for the enclosures. So there's been a push from a person in the residential neighborhood who sent you a letter some time ago asking to prohibit roosters in their entirety. So what I did was to take a stab at writing this is I removed the as of right, get your rooster from Tractor Supply and bring them to your 5,000 square foot lot requirement, and wrote that it would end up having to be a special exception because we do allow for farms and other uses. Our current regulation is 80,000 square feet, which would trip the special, or I'm sorry, more than 80,000, which would trip the special permit.
I couldn't find a definition for farm.
We don't have a definition of farm.
I mean, you got 200 gerbils in a second bedroom. I have a
that a
gerbil
farm?
farm. Yeah, I mean,
So we've always kind of gone by what the Department of Agriculture uses. So agriculture uses have a lot of regulations that are exempted, and so we've gone by that. I mean, we could define it as to what the Department of Agriculture says, but that's how
I
we,
think you need some kind of definition.
okay. But you
Even
can
if it
still,
points to- even if the definition just points to the state definition.
so, but we also allow for the keeping of livestock and poultry on lots of 80,000 or more. So that's not necessarily a farm. I may have 20 gerbils and a hen and a rooster and a partridge and a pear tree on my lot. That's a little bit different.
I have a question. When you took out chickens and put hens in, then you have all the poultry. Can somebody construe other poultry as a rooster?
So is the question really come down to a simple statement? Do we allow roosters or not allow roosters? And if we were to change something that says we don't allow roosters now, everybody that has a rooster would be grandfathered and can keep. Correct?
Until they die and then they
Until they-
can't get a new one.
Right.
Get a new one, you'll never know.
But do you want to do that?
Well, I don't know that, I
You
mean,
know,
that's
you look
really
at
what
it-
it,
Somebody has 8 acres in the woods and they live up next to the preserve. Is a rooster,
yeah, but
I've never had a rooster
if John had a
complain.
rooster in his yard, I'd hear it all the time, even
Right.
though I'm far enough away.
Right.
I mean, it carries a lot, and I think that's what the concern is.
I
I don't know if we can,
I agree with you.
yeah, I don't know if we can eliminate it.
Yeah, I like the language you added at the end of A. The only thing I would like a discussion on would be kind of like what we're doing with the tree warden on cutting trees down is if the sufficient, like somebody to check sufficient noise barrier on a regular basis, like an annual basis or something, if the neighbors in a residentially zoned area have submitted any complaints in the prior year, then some person that works for the town has to regulate that. But if there are no complaints, then clearly there's a sufficient noise buffer.
What words a complaint?
Well,
I mean, those are,
let's
yeah,
back up.
the thing.
So someone would come in, who would be a special exception, it would be more than 80,000 square feet. They'd have to tell you how many roosters you were keeping on the lot, where you were keeping them on the lot. You obviously would want to know the proximity to other residential properties. So if they had 80,000 square feet, you probably wouldn't want to see the enclosure 40 feet from the neighbor's bedroom. And they would have to demonstrate that they provided a sufficient barrier. Like any other application, if it becomes a problem, then it's an enforcement
Yeah,
issue.
it's an enforcement, then it
You
comes down
kind
to
of
who
don't know it's a
enforces.
problem until the rooster moves in.
Right. But you know it's gonna be a problem when
Yeah.
one moves in.
Right.
I don't know how you prove it ahead of time.
Yeah, so you have to take people for their word. And how do you barrier the sound of a rooster?
And
I don't think.
I-
You can't.
you
It's
need,
not practical.
Thanksgiving.
I mean, do you need roosters for eggs and stuff out?
Oh,
No.
They're,
well.
they're for
I-
protection of the hens.
Oh.
So David Brown always had a rooster on his farm on Ingham Hill Road, because they protect the hens
Right.
from predators, and I don't know what the hell they did, if they just
But they
squawked
just
really
build a
loud
good-
or,
You build a really good enclosure.
right.
You don't let them out or something.
Yeah.
Casey, what do you have?
Well, I'll say, so as some of you know, it's someone on my street. It's a neighbor of mine that I think raised this issue. So, but I don't think I don't think it's a conflict for me, but I'm not going to say too much about it. I don't live on the end that's near the rooster, so I'm not impacted by the rooster. I was just going to say one thing to keep in mind, which I think is addressed here, but is a lot of times when people get baby chicks, like they can't tell if it's a rooster until it grows up. So a lot of times people unintentionally end up with a rooster, and yeah, and then it becomes an enforcement issue, which would get dealt with.
Casey's right. Typically, most of the complaints I've gotten is there was a school program where they would incubate chicks. And then our friends at places like Tractor Supply sell them, for Easter and so forth. So with the school program, the kids would all watch them grow up, and then one lucky set of parents would be the ones who ended up with 5 of them, not knowing what they received, but they wanted to make all the kids happy. And that's probably one of the biggest complaints. It's the gifts, or nothing wrong with the school program, but that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
I've never had a complaint about a rooster on a farm or any other, but
Yeah.
On farm,
I,
it's in neighborhoods, it's an issue.
I,
What do you do if somebody, oh, I'm sorry, you can speak up.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
You had a complaint. I don't want to.
Mhm.
What
we don't regulate them right
What are
now.
you gonna, yeah, but okay, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
Correct? Then it becomes an issue between 2 neighbors, and then it will potentially spiral out of control. If we make a blanket statement and say no roosters, you have a grandfather. And if somebody has one, they immediately have to remove it. I'm not sure.
No, you get to keep it. So the rooster would become nonconformity for its lifespan.
Right, but
The
then.
question is, how do I know that Gary the rooster got swapped out for
Right.
Mary the rooster, or
Right.
whatever you're gonna name the rooster?
They regulate that.
It's tough.
Yeah,
It's almost, you can't unless you ban them.
unless you've been completely.
But then you rely on people's honesty.
Yeah, how do you control that,
You
right?
can't.
I don't know all the regs.
I'm sorry,
yet.
Casey, I didn't
Is
mean to
it
speak
something
over.
that could be covered under just a noise regulation, like a nuisance noise?
I don't think so.
I don't think the police are gonna go out with their noise monitors for,
Of course, a rooster.
No, but I didn't know if we had
Fine.
anything that said this is illegal if you have this noise after this time or before this time.
so it's a town ordinance that's monitored by the police department.
And it's really hard to enforce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're very hard to enforce.
So I just put in the 80,000. I mean, I could have put it in there in case you still wanted to have roosters in town. It doesn't really matter to me.
Well, right now,
I'll
anybody
say-
can have.
I've worked in some, like denser communities, and we did prohibit them on certain minimum lot sizes. Like on smaller, in more like developed neighborhoods with smaller lots, we did prohibit them.
You did 80,000.
And I did get a lot of complaints, and I would get chased around yards by roosters and chickens and stuff.
They love shiny things. They
Yes.
they like hubcaps, anything they can see the reflection. And one of the things is you go out to a complaint, and it's usually because you've got a chicken or a rooster pecking at somebody's hubcaps or their car because they can see the reflection. They think it's a friend. Well, anyway, so right now they're allowed pretty much anywhere as long as the enclosure meets. This would obviously, 80,000 square feet is a little less than 2 acres, and it would be a special exception,
I think it's a good start.
prohibited.
Probably as good a start as we're gonna get.
What you gonna do?
Put a circle around to farm again.
Yeah.
So can you say as defined in the state reg? Or-
Well, so we're going through, I mean, we can define farm, but it would also fall under our regulations for livestock and poultry. So you don't have to have a farm to have livestock or poultry.
Or can we take some of that language that you use for livestock? Is that step farm?
That's what I'm using for the 80,000. That's why I mimicked it. So if you go to the beginning, no livestock will be in a lot of less than 5 acres, buildings and enclosures on a lot of not less than 80,000
Oh, okay.
square feet. So then right now, you would go through, it says an aggregate of not more than 20 hens. I'll check out the poultry. May be permitted by special permit provided The building shelter is not less than 70 feet from the property line. And there may be one additional animal unit for every 40,000 square feet, over 80,000, and up to a minimum of 3 animals. So pretty much every time you add an animal, you need more land, and in this one, it would just push everybody into the special.
But then if everybody's gonna have a lot and that's not less than 80,000, and it's gotta be so far from the property line, wouldn't roosters just get thrown in with that then? Because when you cut out roosters, you'd have to repeat that same language, because it's a period and it says roosters will be allowed as of right on any farm. There's no mention of 80,000, there's no mention of anything, it's, everybody else is tied to those restrictions.
Well, this
So
isn't-
Rooster's the only one that's not tied to
It doesn't say farm, I just used farm. It could be an animal.
No, but it seems like it almost should be included in the first part, because you want it unallowed, not less than 80,000, you want it 70 feet from the property line. So either throw them back in or repeat that language for roosters, because right now I think roosters, the only restriction is, other than the noise proof, is that it's a farm. It could be a 2,000 square foot farm.
Where are you seeing farm?
It
So
says it
very
as of
likely-
right on any farm,
On B, we come to B.
No, right above B.
right above B.
The very last sentence.
That's underlined.
Then I'll just take that out, and then you would have the right.
Yeah.
All right.
Allowed as of right.
But then. Oh, yeah.
Then it
That
fixes
makes
it.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place.
that's all right. So we're okay with that?
Derek.
Oh, sorry.
What if you have a situation where you have a property that the gross square footage of the property far exceeds, or I'll just say exceeds, the 80,000.
Mhm.
So you meet that. But 80, I don't care, 50%, 75, 80% of the property is forested, is not being used, maybe cannot be used for anything because of topography or wetlands or anything. And so, but it's all a single property. And so the house and where the animals are kept and everything are situated in, 10 to 20% of the property that is the most closely abutted to a residential neighbor. And the hens, the roosters, and everything are basically pushed over to the side because the rest of the property is forested, wetlands, whatever, cannot be used. How does that impact decision making in, let's say, in your case, if you're looking at an application for animal use or animal husbandry on a property, when you know for a fact that everything's going to stay as close to the other neighbor as possible?
Well, I mean, it would have to meet the setbacks for the building, but the one thing as far as wetlands, so agriculture, there's a lot of protections for agriculture. So there are people who have farms and other uses, such as a Christmas tree farm, that they can go in and fill wetlands and are exempt from the Wetlands Act for farming. That's how protected farming is. So, I mean, you just kind of have to weigh it out, and if they meet the setback for the structure.
But
I mean,
in that case, there wouldn't be a sufficient noise buffer.
Yeah, the last sentence kind of covered it. I don't know how you figure that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy. It's,
Yeah.
and you need agriculture. Obviously, agriculture is, people are building houses and not farms. So that's why agriculture has such protections and so forth. There's no easy answer to some of that.
Right. And in this scenario, what if it was, it's a normal, you know what I mean? Normal house. It is a house that was built in a residential zone to be a house. The usable land on that property was sufficient for front yard and a backyard. And then people decide, well, I also want animals and I'm going to get them and I can.
Mhm.
Does that then go to this sentence about the sufficient noise buffer and then it becomes a police issue?
No, it's a zoning
It's
issue.
a zoning issue, not a police issue.
So what?
And it comes down to the
triggers-
zoning enforcement officer.
Gotcha, okay. Okay,
And I mean, there's been issues, like I said, I mean, you've got roosters tap dancing in the neighbor's yard on their Cadillac, looking at his face. I mean, those are usually the complaints, you know, that we get.
okay.
For the most part, I really
A
haven't,
lot.
well, I mean, roosters, I mean, you know, the answer is we don't regulate them. You can have the 5 or fewer as of right without a permit, but we really haven't gotten any complaints, knock on wood, on larger parcels.
So, I apologize. I
No.
don't remember what you said, so I apologize. With regards to the now, kind of like what I know we're gonna get into with the tree warden, is there something that either does or does not need to be put in this to make sure that if the sufficient noise buffer is not sufficient, or the noise buffer is not sufficient, then there is a annual review to the original application, or so something else to like
It's called zoning enforcement.
zoning enforcement? Okay, okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Trees.
All right, trees. We have a lot of trees on the agenda tonight. The first one, we've had a lot of discussion, and then we've heard about different things from solar farms, which we don't regulate, and people just going out and clear cutting land to clear cut land. So the thought was, when you do clear cut land, which people have rights, you do have issues with soil erosion and sedimentation control. Maybe if someone is going to go out there and just start clearing a half an acre and so forth, and we had one person that ended up putting a farm on one property where we got tons of complaints. We've had other situations. There was one where with a commercial property, and a number of them just start clearing and put land for sale. So the thought was this would help to protect trees, potentially deal with soil and erosion control and neighborhood issues if they cleared more than a half an acre for no reason without a special permit from you, unless they have a permit from DEEP, the Army Corps, the Planning Commission for subdivision, zoning, ZBA, wetlands, or potentially me, depending on what it is. You know, if they're coming in for an as of right farm, there's not really much you can do if they do a plant. Okay,
So it says 20 trees or a half acre, either one.
so it was worded that you couldn't go through and take trees from certain parts and slowly start clearing in different patches. It would include all of it.
Does it matter how big they are?
Wait,
Yeah, other sections you talk about replacing trees at 3.5 inches. And
That's a whole gateway thing. This is nuts.
I know, but I'm just saying. Saplings, little tiny things that count, what is there, does it matter?
We have underbrush.
Well, I know,
That's
but
not what's at.
Vegetation.
You're looking for a minimum diameter?
I'm wondering.
Well, they gotta clear a whole half acre of land.
So,
Or 20 trees. Both.
So if you have a half acre of land with 20 trees and you cut down the 20 trees, it trips a special permit. If there's 19 trees, you don't need the special permit.
There's a maple sapling that's 1 inch in diameter and 4 feet tall. Does that count?
That kind of a tree.
You can ask for
I don't know what I mean.
I can ask our tree folks for some guidance. You want it makes sense. You want a minimum.
minimum diameter.
Something,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a mature
Yeah.
tree.
I don't think it would
Definition.
apply, sapling or something of that nature. All right, I mean, that's a little bit extreme in my mind.
I know, me too, but
I want to cut the underbrush so the trees can grow.
Right.
So I can they have potential to do that, but if you got a tree that's
But that's, yeah,
2 feet in diameter, you don't want that.
but then there's
Take it
everything
down.
in between. That's why I made the
Right, so
reference.
you start with, I think the minimum size that we have.
Well, that's for planting is 3.5
3.5.
inches diameter at breast height, which is
3.5 is
not
about.
much.
That's a good sized tree.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
breast. Oh, so yeah, I mean, that's great.
All right, so 3.5.
I'm just saying that I like that.
3.5.
Because
3.5,
if somebody
blanket
just let their
regulation.
yard go fallow for a year or two and they're like, all right, now I have the money to fix it, they can just go in and clear it, whereas.
But there's no permit for anything. You're just going in and you're cutting it all
Yeah.
down.
So this just clarifies it a little.
That's all I'm
bit.
saying,
Right.
yeah.
So like we've had people that they go through, they buy a property, they're gonna build a house, they clear out 2 acres of land and never do anything. And it
Right.
just kind of sits there and then they sell it to somebody
Right.
else and then who?
Yep.
I know you're ready.
I'm very sure it fits in. Just that, like, I'm thinking of 91 Sheffield and the eagle in the tree. Is there some other section where they have to do a report on effect on local wildlife? Or is that something?
It would trip a special permit. It would go from there as to what they're doing and why they're doing
But
it.
that exists, it doesn't.
But
have to
something
be-
like 91 Sheffield, they're going for a permit, so it would be exempt.
But I'm just saying, is there any kind of requirement that people have to submit? Like, there is no impact on local wildlife? Just check the box, or yes, there is an impact, but it's animals we hate, you know, or, you know.
Roosters. There are too many roosters.
But is there any, is that kind of
The
required?
purpose is to minimize earth disturbance, avoid erosion, identify and protect established tree and canopy to minimize negative impacts of climate change in the environment and have a report from an arborist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't talk about wildlife at all. I didn't know if you could add
I
something.
don't think we can, I guess we could put something about wildlife.
That's a different
Because they could
topic.
just say, no, there is no impact, but, you
Right.
know.
I mean, people have rights to cut trees down on
Yeah.
their property. I mean, unfortunately, the animals don't have the same rights unless they have a conservation easement.
But maybe you could limit it to endangered animals.
I don't know.
Just-
I get it. Or
State
habitat.
and federally protected.
Yeah.
That's what the eagle is. So there's very
Yes.
state.
Nothing.
protected Animals.
Oh, yeah. Eagle?
All right, Gateway, are we good?
Mhm.
Good.
All right.
One more thing on tree clearing, and this might be totally out of our purview, but is there any way that we can help prevent people from cutting trees during nesting season?
This is, I mean, that would be, I mean, we really need to have some kind of a tree ordinance. This is really
Okay,
protecting mature trees.
Okay.
So forth,
And the ordinance would have to come out of the
Come out.
wetlands office
you know, and do something like that. This is just,
or the SOS.
we get these calls, I'm driving by this property and all of a sudden they cut all the trees and the permit says, oh, yeah, probably, yeah, I'm gonna do something. And you've got mud all in the street. They don't have silt fence up. People are upset. It just kind of. All right. So the gateway zone, we had a few kind of wordy sentences, which is the first one. I think that's kind of the requirements of section are in addition to all other requirements, these do not substitute for any permits or obligation. It doesn't even make sense. So it's just some clarification to make sentences.
I rely on you for that. I mean, if you think something's wordy, then if you think it can be clarified, I just don't see what you're doing.
All right, now on to the big one, which really isn't a big one. So the zoning commission's always been very supportive of the Gateway Commission. You understand kind of our role with Gateway?
Right.
So we're, okay, just going through. So there was Gateway text. We have to adopt their minimum standards for trees. And what we did was there was a minimum standard that talked about non-commercial tree cutting plan, and we removed some language that had to do with any other development. So maybe if I read this, when we adopted the regulations, we removed the text, making the regulation more restrictive in the gateway. This resulted in regulating trees beyond the 100-foot gateway riparian when a tree is visible from the river. I know this kind of sounds crazy, but there's trees on College Street and nestled in neighborhoods that are so tall, you can see them from the Connecticut River and you can't see the river from these properties. Or you can see the cove or the tributaries. So the regulation
technically would require for these trees that are non-visible, or the tree warden and I were kind of the regulated tree people, we're the tree enforcement folks. You would have to get a permit to cut one tree down. Anybody who's come in, I'm not going to make them get a permit for $100 to cut a tree down. I said, document what you have. This is my permit. Take a picture of it. Get me something saying why you're taking it down. Take a look at it and go from there. So, and replace it with another. And that's worked fine. But now we've had a number of situations that have come up where the regulation talks about that you have to demonstrate the tree is diseased, storm damage, unsafe, or dead. So we'll get a call, somebody wants to take down these trees. You go to a house, you've got a tree that's grown kind of wild like this by somebody's house. It's totally healthy. The whole side of the house is mold. I can understand why they would want to take it down, but it's not disease, storm damage, or unsafe because it's leaning, it's not through the structure. So we had another situation, actually I got a call on it today, where someone planted non-native trees that they can't remove because they're healthy. So someone could put an invasive plant. So we kind of did ourselves a wrong in making it this complicated. So I talked to the Gateway Commission. I talked to the chairman of the Gateway Commission, our representative of the Gateway Commission months ago. This was like last year now. And just saying, look, you know, these regulations are too strict. And they said, but wait a minute. The problem is you made the regulations too strict. So, but they like them. But they understand there's situations where we want to change it. So the regulation would go through, hold on a second, and allow for some trees still to be managed. So trees visible from the Connecticut River and not within the 100-foot buffer. No more than 3 storm damage unsafe may be removed in a calendar year or contiguous property under the same ownership. They'll provide documentation for an arborist and replant at 3.5 dBH. From 4 to 9.
Can we do one?
Okay, yep.
So for that paragraph, can you just explain why we're staying within those designations? Because it doesn't sound like we're allowing the discretion now to the tree warden or yourself, because we're not, unless we're saying unsafe. Can unsafe be a plethora of reasons that allow for someone to cut down a tree, like proximity to a structure, and you just go, yep, unsafe, very good.
You said problematical.
Excuse me.
Because I just feel like if there's a single tree on a property and the homeowner doesn't want that tree anymore, they should have the ability to remove that tree.
Right.
Can we just say problematical?
What's going to give the tree warden and or yourself the ability to have a discretion on, so that it's not only in these situations, which makes, if a tree is growing in a weird angle or happened to sprout and now all of a sudden the prior owner has moved on, but the new owner doesn't want the tree 5 feet from their house, but it's now a 10-year-old tree. It's perfectly fine. Right now, it doesn't look like the new language allows that to happen, because technically it's not unsafe until the hurricane comes through. And only then is it an unsafe tree.
I think you give the property owner too much opportunity there. I think you give the property owner too much authority there. They'll take down trees that shouldn't be taken down.
Shouldn't that be the property owners, right?
But isn't that what's going on
Yeah.
now?
Right, that's why I don't like,
And I'd say to you, if you came on my property and said, you can't take those trees down, I'd tell you, get off my property, I can do whatever I want on my property.
We're talking about, because we're talking about not more than 3. I understand when we get into the 4 to 9 plus 10, but
It
if there's
becomes a
a
big-
single tree that you're like this, if the tree is 10 feet away from your property, I have a tree on a neighbor property that I get to cross my driveway, whatever. So from one side of my house, we're probably looking at 15 feet. That's a 30 to 40 foot tree. If it comes down, it's taking my house out. I should be able to talk with my neighbor and go, hey, do we want this tree? But right now we can't because the tree's perfectly safe. Or fine, healthy. Healthy.
I'll be honest, it's been a little while since I read this because it's been. So,
When we talk about a certain number of trees, we're giving property owner discretion up to a point, but after a certain number of trees, now we're trying to make sure that the town has green space, make sure that there's canopy cover, which improves the soil structure and everything else that we've talked about so far. But 1 or 2 trees, in my opinion, that's a private property right.
Well, could you have the tree warden look at them too? The tree warden looks at 4 to 9, but maybe as long as the tree warden says it can be taken down.
Yeah, but I think that to your point is if we were budding neighbors and on my side of the property line, I had a tree that was growing in your direction. That if it did come down, would come down on your vehicles or your garage, right? And there was a conversation, hey, will you take down your tree? No, can I take it down? Yes. You do that, otherwise you're subject to insurance and it's always gonna be on
Yeah.
wherever the tree falls.
Right.
You should have a right to take that tree down. Obviously, if it's, 100-year-old tree, you're gonna think about it
Right.
a little bit more, but.
Because
that's
I
a
could
freedom- That's a
argue,
freedom of
Right.
property owners to do. I think if we get too engrossed in controlling the number of trees on a small amount,
right,
we're just gonna create so much workload.
Right.
For Chris and her staff. That's not reasonable.
well, they're all our workload right now. That's kind of the,
But I mean, do we?
So
Go ahead.
I mean, Derek, you have a good point. I think when you say unsafe, so I think when you go back to the bottom of page 9, the commission or its agent will evaluate all applications to determine if proposed replacement trees are consistent with the goals of green up Old Saybrook, maybe stick after that. The agent in its discretion, meaning the tree warden or I, will have some discretions to, evaluate invasives or unsafe trees. Somehow that got taken out. To give us some discretion if the person says it's leaning on my house creating mold, but it's healthy, can I replace it?
Right.
And
take it down.
I
Chances
feel
are,
like problematical because you can make an argument of whether something's safe or not, but there's not much argument. It's a problem. It's causing mold. It's a problem. It's hanging over a driveway.
Well,
It's a problem.
there was a situation that someone bought a house and the problem began that they bought a house and they were allergic to all the specific type trees in the yard. So they wanted to remove those trees out and the tree guy came to take a look at it and the neighboring person said, oh, well, I have a problem with my tree. And then it goes on to the next person who had another problem with the tree. Some of the trees you look at, okay, well, this person's allergic to the tree. Now you're going to take them all down. I understand people may not understand there's regulations in the gateway. Then you end up going to the next house, but there were trees that were perfectly fine that all of a sudden became sick trees. And it was kind of interesting to watch exactly what happened. The tree guy came out for one property, the neighbor saw the next person, the neighbor, and all of a sudden, all the trees that have been there in one area, there's a whole slew of them were proposed to be taken down. So that's
that's kind of where you use problematic. It can be a little problematic for us because what does problematic mean? Problematic can mean, the bark falls on my car and I have to wash my car too much. That's my problem. So
Are we getting too deep into the forest rather than looking at the treetop? With defining as, I mean, I don't mean to be.
I think unless I'm missing it, we need to go through, Derek has a good point. We need to go through and just add some discretion to evaluate invasives, unsafe or problematic.
Well, this just says you can't take more than 3.
Mhm.
You can take a tree down. And you can call it unsafe.
If you have 1 or 2 or 3 trees, you can take
It
it.
just says you don't,
Okay, that's fair. I read that differently. You're right, though.
it's just saying,
Or you,
No more than 3.
You're right.
because the next one is 4 or 1.
Right, right, yeah. And unsafe is a good reason.
Unsafe is in there, yeah.
Could be a reason. So I'm not sure it's that far off. I just don't think it should be
But we should put something about invasive. So there's
Yeah.
in that too, yeah.
a situation right now, and someone years ago planted a spite hedge because of a neighborhood dispute. And the hedge or trees, they're not native. There's different neighbors now. They both hate these trees and they want to take them down, but they're healthy. So, and they're invasive. So it's like, okay, well, they want to take them down. They want to put native trees in. They want to take the invasives out. Or they're, the non-natives out. That seems to me just to be practical.
Right. Be like having.
But I think anywhere that you put invasive should be a / non-native. And then that way there, it also gives discretion. And then if there is a concern about lot clearing in a situation like that, then that's where we talk about there has to be at least some ratio of replacement. So if it doesn't make sense to replace a 1-for-1, maybe there is a ratio of of a lot size to a number of replantings, whatever, so that we guarantee there's some replanting, but it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 if it doesn't make sense for what the development's going to be.
It may not be a development, it just may be my backyard.
Yeah.
But isn't this, looks like it's only for trees visible from the Connecticut River.
Right.
So what about everybody else's tree? If everybody else,
So we're fixing a regulation that says right now, anyone who wants to cut a tree visible from the Connecticut River has to go to the tree warden or to me to take it down.
so it's not all of Old
No.
Saybrook. Oh, okay.
It's just.
So this goes through and saying, okay, instead of going through, and I talked to Gateway and I had Carolyn Lyle and Kathy Connolly, who are big into trees in town. I had them both take a look at the text and the Gateway Commission, kind of at a preliminary, the chairman and that. So this was okay. Now you can't take one down without a permit if it's visible. Now you can take 3. It gives us a little bit of discretion and then we can.
I mean, you have to have a lot of patience, but if you take down 3 a year, in 10 years, you can take down 30 trees.
Right. Right.
Well, the reality of the regulation is someone could be in Otter Cove right now cutting down a very tall tree visible from the Connecticut River, and I may never know.
Right.
I mean, I think it's a little too much regulation.
Can I?
But, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is there any thought to expanding it beyond just ones you can see from the Connecticut River? Because somebody with a tree that's really close to their house, that's growing mold on their house, seems like they should be able to take down that tree. And I thought you said they couldn't, and I was thinking it was all.
So it's any tree that's in the Connecticut River Gateway Conservation Zone.
It's just that.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
I.
You,
I
where
could
you
take
are,
down
you
the
could
tree.
take the
Right,
tree,
right.
and you don't have to worry about
And
it.
what the tree warden and I are saying is, these are a lot of trees to manage. Some of this, it just doesn't make sense, and there's situations where there could be a healthy invasive tree that should be cut down, but it doesn't really give us the wiggle room.
Right.
So we started off in the gateway, there's a 100-foot riparian buffer that protects trees and vegetation, and you can only cut the understory of trees. When this zoning commission removed the text saying that it had to be included with a development. If it was beyond the 100 feet, it really opened up the whole gateway zone. So there's trees in different areas that are still visible from the Connecticut River, but you know, there could be one, or its tributaries, North Cove, the river, whatever, that are still visible. So that's kind of what's been going on. It's not the whole town. I have enough trees to manage. We have enough trees going on right now.
Okay.
I was only asked, wondering about that same paragraph where the only one documentation came from an arborist. Should the tree warden or don't you want that?
So it has to go through the tree warden, and I guess I'm the deputy. We are the ones who make the authorization. So this is saying you need to provide the tree warden with something from an arborist, unless the tree warden is an arborist, which I don't believe he is.
So you don't need to add that in there. That's what I was asking. You're already in there.
It's already in
It's
there.
already in there.
Oh, also clarifying, that's a good question, is, same paragraph, third sentence. A plan will be submitted indicating the same number of trees are to be replanted. Is this an opportunity to then make sure that they are native?
So it's according to the tree and vegetation clearing guide of Old Saybrook. So that has all the natives. So 3.5.
But but tell me if I'm wrong, that's only right now. Okay, I see, it's the last paragraph. Okay, great, thank you. Because I saw that really only under
Yeah.
20 or more, but I see it now.
So yeah, that's. So the one thing I don't do with these is I'll go through and I'll write the regs or I'll get regs. I don't do all the italics, no definitions, and I don't do all the indenting in that until we know we're putting them in the regs.
Yes.
So sorry if it's a little.
Oh, good.
Okay.
All right, next one. This is just some text that didn't make sense. So it says, the purpose of 58 Gateway conservation excessive misdirected. So we added the light pollution text in. 58.10. There's no text, so I've added reserved. 58.20, there was no verb, so I added are to make a sentence. If I'm going too fast, tell me to stop. Proposed amendments to section 59, and July we had new coastal management laws that went into effect. I noticed when I went into the section, for some reason, there was no purpose statement like the other ones, so I just kind of put a little sentence together. And then
I got a question back on light pollution.
Mhm.
Thing that occurred to me when I'm thinking about this, we want dark sky compliant lights and all that. And the one thing that we never talked about is flag illumination, because they're all pointing up.
I think dark skies exempts them.
I didn't see that.
I
Dark
think
sky.
that's a federal regulation.
I
Federal.
think it is too, but we should make sure we say that that's exempt from, right?
So
Mhm.
Maybe?
can we jump into it when we get into
Yeah,
the lighting?
we get the lighting, yeah.
No, and I mean, I think it is a federal.
I think it is.
So the exemptions, pretty much what we've done is cut out things that no longer are exempt. And since there's so many more applications that trip coastal site plan, and it's something we've done for years, is if someone comes in with a coastal site plan review for an addition to their house, it can get approved by planning, zoning, or ZBA. Well, technically, if it's a zoning application that I could have handled administratively, now I have to send them to the zoning commission for that. So over the years, what we've done when the requirements weren't as tough, we'd go through and say, okay, John's going to put an addition on his house. It trips coastal site plan.
I can make him wait for the zoning commission meeting, but I can get him faster into planning to move him along. And these are for things that before this, we could have just administratively handled, just talking about our policy that.
Yeah.
Okay. Somehow, I don't know, did the underlines get dropped? For some reason, the underlines got dropped out of your, some of this.
Where are we? 59.2?
Yeah, 62 access parking and circulation. All right, so we're gonna go to 13B. So originally, when we started pedestrian node regulations and started requiring sidewalks as part of new construction, there was a very complicated plan that each pedestrian node, pretty much each intersection, depending on where it was, this one could have, you've arrived somewhere and at that intersection, you could potentially have this type of border and a different border and a different border. Well, excuse me. I apologize, I'm fighting a cold. So what's happened since this began in 2008, there were grants that were applied for that didn't match the sidewalk plan, that were different from the text, and our regulation had some of these initial things in it. So I met with our engineer, Department of Public Works, and Carl, and we just went through and said, okay, this is kind of what's happening here. Are you good if we just change the regulations to do that? And then in certain ways, we added like Mariner's Way and the event, to give the discretion in other areas of town. So it's really going through and kind of fixing what's happening. So there's been times an engineer will come in, you'll approve a site plan, and the next thing you know, DPW are running out there saying, no, don't put that in because it's not going to match anything in this area because it was so specific. So this pretty much says the sidewalks and the town center area, brick pattern, kind of and then the Main Street, North Main, Elm River intersection, train tracks, brick pattern stencil or colored stencil Portland concrete. Sidewalks along the Boston Post Road will have the edging. And that's really what's happening.
So it's really modifying the wording to
Reflect what's happening.
Right.
What happened, yeah.
What happened and continue.
And then at one point we had a grant and I'm like, what's going on here? I just realized this doesn't match. And it was like, it was already out to bid and full steam ahead. So this, plus it doesn't make sense in some areas to have all the stencil because it's a lot of maintenance. And then when people throw the rock salt on it, it changes the color and rips up the finish. Anyway.
Okay.
I really like all this. I love the conformity throughout. I know this isn't for tonight, just gonna throw the grenade out there, is whether it's in section B or a second section, is this an opportunity to put in a be in lieu of area if construction is not deemed by the zoning commission or yourself as necessary for that area or a area, so that we can have a sidewalk maintenance fund for the town or something along those lines?
I'll ask our attorney to look into it. Maybe we can put something together if that's something you want to do.
Well, we can take a look at what comes back before we do anything.
Just from Lynn Street, remember they had the old project and then we were looking at the new project. And I think he wanted the sidewalk to go through the driveway, but it didn't on the other. Is that just something that slipped through the cracks or is that something that the language needs to be tightened?
I think it slipped through the cracks. There was a few things that slipped through the cracks on the other side of the street. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good point, but I think we need to dive into that.
In my past, that an ordinance like that has so many benefits.
You're gonna have some pushback from applicants, but we can talk about that.
Yeah.
We've seen it already.
All right, so 64 signs. These are recommendations from the Architecture Review Board. They would like to clarify sign illumination is limited to 3,000 Kelvin to remove halo and neon signs. Now, I'm going to kind of jump into lighting in general. Further along in the regulations, we have some new language about lighting that I added dark skies to. There's current illumination language for structures and so forth that has different, based on zones, rural zones. Some of them are by foot candles. Sometimes it's referred to dark sky compliance. Architecture Review Board wants to look at becoming a dark sky certified town. So they want to look at that. Their vice chairman right now, he's on the mend. He had surgery towards the end of the year. I think we need to take a look at our overall lighting regulations, as we found from Hanford when Attorney Shansky said, where does it say dark sky compliant? So dark sky compliant is more, you know, they're a nonprofit group that makes recommendations for certain lighting fixtures, you know, to keep skies dark and minimize light pollution. That's what you're talking about, light pollution. ARB has what they're looking to achieve here. The 3,000 Kelvin is a lighting standard or within a range of what dark sky fixtures or signs have. I think we really need to look at the lighting regulations overall, dark sky compliance, and maybe have somebody come in and just say, we have all these regulations. Which one's the best for what we're trying to achieve? Are we really, I mean, dark sky compliant? And even when I added the text, I kept out residential other than multifamily. When you go and buy a light fixture for your house, do you go and say, is that dark sky compliant? I'm going to look at that before I put it up. You know what I mean? You have to have some practical portions to it that I think everybody needs to get a better, including myself, on this. So what I'd like to do is maybe get a lighting expert, because also conservation is interested in light pollution. We've got ARB, this board. So
That's a good idea.
but we've got a lot of
Yes,
housing stuff to do too, so. So that's kind of the plan before we jump into this. So in some ways,
So
just
what do
kind
you
of,
do with it? You want to look at it or not?
well, the ARB would like to, and at the meeting where the memo is okay, you'll add it into the next round of fixes, the 3,000 Kelvin. They want to add that in because people don't look at the dark sky standards, and they thought it would just be easier to have that in. I think that makes sense.
Mhm.
And then they don't like halo lighting and neon lighting. Neon signs, I should say. So their proposal, the 3,000 Kelvin, and to remove halo lit and neon signs.
What is halo lit? What does that mean?
So the lighting goes behind the sign.
And then it creates an effect where you see the letters because the lights are behind it and it glows out. But it's not the lighting that you see the reverse of, you see the blocked letters.
Gotcha. Yeah. And what are all these little signs they have? Are they LEDs or are they neon? The little signs that say open or closed? A lot of
Some
people.
are, they're both. They're both.
So they're talking about more, we'll focus on more the wall signs. So if you want to put up a sign, yeah, I mean, those are obviously window signs. That's a whole other issue I didn't even think of, but
I don't think we have any neon signs in town, like.
Main Street, the liquor store,
So say
Colony? Old
Old
Colony.
Colony.
That's
Oh.
There's a few here and there.
classic.
Colony.
I love that sign.
Because
It's a
of the
classic.
neon or?
No, because it's,
Oh, because.
Well, I would personally, I don't know if I should recuse or not, but I'm gonna bring it up and then you can tell me if I need to recuse, but I need clarification on what a neon sign is and what size and where, because an open sign on the inside of my window that is 12 inches by 6 inches and is white and is not flashing or blinking or anything, it's a neon sign, right? And so would that be now not permitted? And so I'm not looking to get.
No, and I agree with you, because to go through and have an open sign, most store clerks are not gonna go and open the convenience store and buy a sign and say, like the whole, is my residential fixture dark sky? They're gonna go through, they're gonna go and order from some catalog and get it. I think this is geared more towards, and I mean, I think we should say that too, for wall or freestanding signs. And that's a good point. I don't think you need to recuse it. I didn't even really think about it till whoever said open, and I'm like, oh no. You know what I mean? You're gonna go in there. I don't know the difference between some of these, and there's so much technology now.
I know a lot of the LEDs are more popular and cheaper, I would imagine, but it might be,
Could be
yeah.
exterior wall. Yeah,
Wall or freestanding.
yeah, but exterior wall, not like he'd have a sign in his room.
That's the windows.
It's a window sign.
Yeah, but
And it's inside.
It's inside.
Yeah,
So that's a
exterior
windows.
versus.
I mean, I've seen ordinances and regulations in the past that, prohibit flashing signs regardless of where they are and what they are.
That's us.
We
Yeah.
do, which we do.
And so, that makes a lot of sense,
I put Chris all the time about that.
There's somebody with a strobe light on Route 1, I keep forgetting. So like I'll go home at 10 o'clock at night and I see it down and I'm like, God. But it's distracting.
Yeah.
It's somebody.
So, I'm just interested in this for clarification, because sometimes it's very easy to get very overly technical and then find a reason to approve or deny something. So, for example, the signs on 85 Main Street, so Charles Schwab and myself are technically, there's a light source behind the letters, but it is not a halo effect. And that they probably are dark sky compliant because the lighting is within an encased lettering. But the light source is from behind the letters so maybe it's saying to create a glowing halo effect. Okay, that's not a comma. That is a part of the sentence. So mine is not a halo effect. I just want to be sure that that's obvious. I mean, I think it is, because there's no grammar here or punctuation that's making it an option. It's saying to create a glowing effect. So if you agree that I'm reading that right, that's only with regards to signs that have glowing halo effects.
you're looking at the last two lines of on page 13
Yeah.
At the top.
specifically.
Are you reading that the same way I'm reading that?
I'm reading it that way, but I'll be honest with you. I think we all need the light training,
Yeah, I
including
agree.
myself.
I mean, my comment is, I don't think we should,
And this is what ARB had asked. We talked about.
I don't think we should make any
Yeah.
changes to the lighting until we've gone through that process.
I agree.
Because
We're gonna
we
let
may
that
be,
too.
The Kelvin.
Well, is 3,000 or is it 3,500 Kelvin? I don't know. The stuff changes so frequently. I mean, 10,000 Kelvin would be awful bright.
Right.
But there's different hues of Kelvin,
Right.
right? So what hue is more conducive to dark sky that maybe allows you to have 10,000?
But that's what I'm saying. We have someone come in,
That's
look at
what-
our lighting regulations.
Yeah,
Someone educate us on all of this, because it's.
Right,
being-
exactly.
And as you're saying, even with these fixtures, is it
Yeah.
LED, LCD?
Right.
Who knows day to day, and I'm just, making up stuff. There's so much technology. All right, so you're just
I
gonna,
think we table it.
okay.
I think so.
All right, so that's two. All right, so legibility. Signs with light text on dark backgrounds are encouraged.
Okay, John.
14.
Yeah.
Design standard on the side. Signs will have dark backgrounds and light lettering.
Because that's what they're requesting of the.
So ARV years ago said they didn't like signs. We can't regulate color,
Right.
like light backgrounds with dark lettering, kind of like, we're gonna go back to 75 Main Street where it has the white freestanding sign, with dark black letters.
Mhm.
And then that was a design standard, but because it's not a regulation, they're looking for something like, signs will have dark backgrounds and light lettering. You can hold on that one too. I'm not.
Question on, where this is referring to? Is it all signs? Is it wall-mounted signs? Is it freestanding signs?
Signs.
All signs. So I've always been in love the idea of conformity in a town. It makes it sound like a lot nicer. That said, I think I don't see, for someone who is anal than I am about what things look like in a town, having one standard seems restrictive, like all signs will be dark backgrounds with light lettering, when I know that for example, the freestanding sign at 75 Main Street looks fine.
Because that's a recommendation, it's not a regulation. This is where they're stuck.
They want it to be a regulation.
So it's a recommendation. So the ARB used to have what was called design standards. And it was a set of things that they liked to see. So on the columns on the side of the regulations with the pictures and that, if you read the preamble to Article 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, it talks about things in the side. So, when using temporary signs, well, part of what we're correcting here is we don't allow temporary signs. We never went through and updated those standards. And in some ways, I think they're almost a little bit confusing because as regulations change, things that are shown in photographs they're not allowed anymore. So that is one of the design standards. So the question becomes too, if it's not a regulation and it's a standard and it's a recommendation, can I have ARB just go through and put up a bunch of things, we talk about it and just update them, but I always bring them to you because they're within the zoning regs. That's even if they're recommendations.
So the question is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just going back to the dark side with the light lettering. Couldn't you have some national companies whose logo would be the reverse?
Yeah, you can have anything.
But sometimes when you look at design and signs, part of what the boards do is look at signs. So, you may not have to have the full giant golden arches in front of the building. It's a different version of it that kind of keeps with the, New England and the way the town feels. So it doesn't mean that, you have to have, you could have a business that may not have all of its colors or logos or branding on it. And things like that help to encourage that.
From the ARB's discussion, was part of that discussion on legibility or readability as a driver versus readability as I understand the thing about less words is better. I remember reading that. I get that. But from a straight visibility, legibility standpoint, is there one that's recommended over the other from design standards for municipalities?
I mean, this is really kind of their standard. The more you put on it, I remember years ago, somebody came in and it was like a cell phone store and it said like www.susieG's wireless phone number, text me this and that. So I'm like, no one's going to be able to read it, and I think it depends. It's, it could be on Main Street. You may not be able to see it. You can be going 35 miles an hour down Route 1 and you may need to be able, I think it's just to help them to make it
more legible, no matter what kind of a sign.
Well, didn't is it the Saybrook, what's the plaza called, with the train station?
Saybrook Station.
Saybrook Station. So they had, the old sign was a maroon background with all the different stores having their own lettering, and now it's white with black lettering on all of them, right? Same with the Pursuit of Pastry Plaza. They changed that all to white.
Because these guys need teeth from you to help them get dark backgrounds and light lettering.
And that brings me back to my initial question is, which is better and why? If it's just because, and I, this is no disrespect, this is just if ARB is just saying this is what we want, I just want to know the why.
Okay.
Because if there's a design standard that's recommended from,
These are their own design. These are our designs.
There is an organization that would recommend that specific.
well, I guess oh, she's gone. I was
So
gonna-
each town, I mean, has their own regulations and standards. So there's some towns, like you said, you like uniformity.
Well, that's my point. Like, does
But-
the APA recommend something or?
There's, I mean, I can send you 500,000 pages of recommendations going one way or the other. It's really, uniformity. So for example, Saybrook Station and Porter Plaza, they have uniform signs.
Yeah.
And they have uniform signs because their property owners agreed to and want uniform signs, so you don't have this hodgepodge of, a beautiful halo sign, and next to it, somebody spray painted something on a piece of plywood saying, shoes.
Right.
But I mean, and that's part of it. And when you guys do your reviews, it's kind of looking overall at sign bans and things like that. You can incorporate that into regulations, but it's really, what you want. Do you want it really busy and have 500 signs on the side of the road? You have 500 signs on the side of the road, nobody can read one of them.
Right.
That's, so it's really up for you as a zoning commission, ARB, to kind of go through and make your own standards. If you said, I want to do X, Y, Z, but
Well-
this is something that they've kind of encouraged, but it doesn't.
Dark backgrounds with light lettering gives you a freeway and the ability to go any direction with color. Since you can't control color. But I think your question is, I think should be asked of ARB is why? What's their intent? What's their short-term, long-term plan on signing for the town?
I just have the saddest comment ever to make, that my daughter and her generation can't read script. And I don't know if there's any regulation that sign should be not in script.
I don't think you can regulate font.
Well, some towns go to that extreme. They'll go through and say the size of the letter, the specific font. I mean, it can get a little bit out of control. I mean, you can make everything that rubber stamp, but you kind of take away kind of some of the feel of the businesses, if you want, like SIP has the fun and SIP in cursive, sorry.
And actually, also, I know in New York, I can't remember which is better, but there was a study that said people can read, I think it's all caps better than caps and small letters, and they changed the street signs, and it was a problem but I can't remember which was better. I would think all caps would be better, but I just can't.
I don't think they want to get that much into it. I think, allow businesses to have some design and freedom to do it. But there are towns and places, and I've seen them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to shoot myself. So you're going to have a review and say, the letter is the B of 18 inches, and is it, Times New Roman font? I mean, it gets, anyway.
Okay.
All right, so do you want to just skip that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one is, I was approached by the high school about a year ago because they wanted to put their crest over the front door of the building. And they said, well, what's the wall sign requirements? So I went through and I said, gee, there are no wall signs allowed. So this regulation would allow for a wall sign.
I just lost my page.
14.
Okay, there we go. So freestanding sign, one per lot. And then because this is all new, this is the regulations for sign. It's Saybrook Point 1 and 3. Where's the sign?
Wall signs on the package that under the,
Mhm. So it would be 50 square feet max. 5% of the area of the wall or 16 feet and would go up to 50 for municipal, but if you want to lower it, you could do that.
for the municipal use, is there a, doesn't, unless it's in something that's not, added text or changed text, is there a duration? So for municipal use, 50 square feet, but not more than, 2 weeks or a month or something?
This is a permanent sign.
Permanent, okay.
So the thing is that it's a little bit different. So think about residential zones. So the police department is in a residential zone, the library is in a residential zone, the high school is in a residential zone.
Elementary school?
Elementary school is in a residential zone. This building is a residential zone. So to keep the 5% or 16 overall and have something different for municipal, and I'm not bound to any number that you pick. You kind of want to have something if you want to put the crest or the sign or whatever it is, because it's more of a public facility than a residential use.
What's the definition of a wall sign?
The wall sign is actually hung on the wall below the roof. It's a measurement of the wall to the maximum height of 10 feet by the width of the building. For shopping centers and plazas, we try to get them to just measure the wall area below so people don't hog all the signage and then there's fights and police and it's not pretty, or have a uniform sign man. So it's hung on a wall.
So that it's hung, does that mean that it's like a banner?
No.
No.
It's a.
Well, I guess you could have your permanent wall sign as a banner. We wouldn't prohibit that.
I think that's my clarification, because I love the idea. I'm not opposed to any, I think this is all great. I love it gives you teeth. If it were a banner per se, then I would recommend a time duration, because those banners can fade, they can blow in the wind and rip, and now all of a sudden it looks terrible.
So you've got a few things. So you've got your signs, you've got your freestanding signs that are in the ground in your wall signs. Those you go to ARB and this board and you get a permit or to be administrative. So if you have a business and you have the name of your business on the building, you're not allowed to have a banner stuck to the building. So either you can have the name of your building up there or your temporary banner on the outside or the inside of the window that falls apart. So that's the difference. Does that help?
But we have, like Adelman's has a banner where the sign used to be. And that thing is blown off a number of times and has to get put back.
Oh, they have a bag over it because of the.
All right, and we have Fenwick Ice Cream from our last meeting. They have a big banner in the front of it. Banners tend to, and I agree with you, tend to be destroyed, tend to discolor, depending on what.
So
how
those are
you buy it.
technically zoning violations because Adelman
Right.
didn't have a
Didn't
permit
have a permit.
for it,
Just put
and
it up.
Fenwick
No.
Ice Cream, that was temporary.
But my point is, banners shouldn't be allowed.
Or if they are, there's a maximum duration that they are allowed, and then it becomes
We don't allow them as temporary signs, so I think we're getting a little botched up.
Yeah.
So we have right now, if I was to build
a new school in a residential zone for the town, technically I can't put a sign on it saying school. So that's what we're dealing with, the permanent sign. So for a business, you probably want to say grocery or your convenience store, and then all the crappy signs saying milk and cigarettes and lottery come up after. So for the most part, most businesses want a permanent sign. Adelman's, I think, is for sale, and he's winding down. Fenwick,
2 years.
his is temporary.
Or more.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I think that's kind of where you have to think about it. How many business owners reasonably would want to have a banner up for a business if they're going to be there for 20 years?
What kind of,
Absolutely correct.
Right.
Excuse me for saying, absolutely correct. But if you give them that option, they're gonna go with that option if they're of the mindset that they don't want to invest in their business to meet the standards of the town. And something along Route 1, I mean, that's our gateway.
But what do you do when they say they can't afford it? And I'm not picking any.
I know that, but financial is not part of the consideration of this.
So anyway, this sign is not for municipal uses. I doubt they're looking to put a banner up with the crest for the next 20 years. We're looking at, do we want to have wall signage allowed for municipal uses and wall signs allowed for businesses at Saybrook Point?
Why do we have to do both?
Because it's all in the same district.
So if it's good for one, it's good for all. If it's not good for one, and then it's not good for the rest.
So I think
Basically,
the
so
school's looking for something bigger because it's a bigger use.
I
The 16 square feet, that was from the other. I just picked 50 and threw it into the mix.
Right. I don't think we'd want to see a lot of big signs on Saybrook Point.
So that's why it says 5% or 16.
I'm making a statement that don't think there should be those type of signs. We're gonna have coming up to us sometime in the next 6 months, the waterfront project. Right?
So no wall signs.
Where I stand.
I'm not entirely opposed to wall signs. It's just, then it gets into whether we have, and I don't know if we do or should have discussion over what the signs look like.
So that's what, I mean, the definition of signs, the ARB helps to do that. I can't, I kind of have we have our hands tied a little bit with these people with the banner. So the question is, do you want to allow wall signs?
And, yeah, another part, it looks like it did some many.
We got wall signs in, neighborhood association, state and news, 64.4, right? 40 square feet.
Right.
I'm just looking at the other ones and trying to compare.
We're actually doing less than what's already in for neighborhood associations, park conservation area, farms, right? Because that's 10%, but this would be 5%.
Yeah. Yep.
Couldn't somebody make the argument there's no wall sign requirements, so then they can just put up a wall sign?
Any use that's not listed as permitted is prohibited.
Oh,
So that, if we catch that in
Yeah.
the preamble.
Hmm.
And I mean, you don't have to have any. It's.
They wanted a picture of the ramp. And then
No, their logo, yeah, they want their logo
logo, right?
over the door.
Do you know the location is the high school? It's sign out on the street.
Hmm?
I say everyone knows it's the
Right.
high school, there's a sign out on the street.
That's Route 1.
Mhm.
Yeah. So are we log jam here?
I have no problem with wall size, but I don't care. Like,
You don't care what?
The fight for one. No,
I
I,
don't have a
I'm
strong
in the same,
opinion.
I'm in the same shoes. I mean, I think if I could understand if I could understand the negative, that would help me understand.
I guess I'm trying to, what's the negative? What are we, I go. Well, I guess what's wrong with wall signs?
well, we allow wall signs now.
But we don't allow them in the residence districts or Saybrook Point now.
Right,
So that's, I
but
think
those are
that,
distinctly different districts. Okay?
right.
And look at Saybrook Point, and all of a sudden you start seeing multiple wall signs.
Well, this is SP
It's SP one, SP
three.
three,
And
and Saybrook Point.
can we just allow it? It's not-
The three areas are grouped together, so it's like one, it's all or
They're
nothing.
always all trees.
no, there's different, because there's SP one, I gotta look at that.
Yeah, I got it right here.
That's right here.
But if it
It says
one,
people on the first.
for example, with these resorts and marina be one. If then, one side or
You can't even get this open.
Huh?
You can't even get this open.
There was a maximum.
It's like SP three is the buildings
you have-
on the west side of, SP two is where the marina is, SP one is.
The condos and the
Yeah.
hotels.
So they did this is just 1 and 3, which are the not Saybrook Point.
I thought it was SP one, oh, SP
SP two
one,
is the dock and dine.
SP one and SP three.
Yeah,
And residential districts.
residential, but these are the Saybrook Point on the,
I mean, if it was on a high school, it's not gonna really bother anybody because there's
No.
nobody living in that area.
No.
If you're over by the elementary or maybe even.
look at a random house, just put up a sign on its front then?
You can have a little slot
Yeah.
for a home business.
Allow it. but-
So this is SP one and SP three, which isn't even the reason we're talking about this. They're kind of logged in, so it's residence district, so you can have a 3 square foot, like an identification sign saying Susie the arborist, or for a home occupation, and that's it. And a freestanding for municipal. Or a park or conservation or other use sign.
And that's the way it is right now.
So putting Saybrook Point aside, the request is for pretty much a residential or a sign over the door for the high school, which would impact all, right?
I,
So this,
I think what is provided currently is adequate in those areas, and I don't think
sounds
that
to me.
it's gonna,
And the schools cannot do anything.
no. It remains the way it is now.
It's based on a school request.
Yeah, a year ago.
And I went through and I said, wait a minute, we don't even allow wall signs. So I mean, technically where it says town hall is technically a zoning violation,
Yeah.
because that's a sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I mean, I think in some ways you need to have town hall is still
Well,
a sign,
yeah.
or Acton Library is.
Obviously, that was done 20 years ago and wasn't viewed as a violation.
I don't think anybody looked at it.
No.
I'm just, I don't know. I mean, this kind of came up and I'm like, how did this happen?
But I think there's businesses that would be helpful, like a lot of libraries are designed where you don't know what they are.
Right.
You know, it's not, it's usually nice architecture,
Right.
but it could be anything.
Right.
All right, so
No.
no change to the fact. Oh.
All right, design standards, I talked to you before, we've got all these pictures and language
Yep.
that does not meet the regulations, so it doesn't make sense to have them in the regulations. And then the next several pages, I had our attorney look at the special standards for convalescent home, nursing home, residential life care, and special standards for consistency with the statutes, so that goes on and was reviewed and amended through page 20. I don't know if there's,
I'm okay with all of that.
That's all based on,
Yeah.
attorney reviews.
Yeah. I'm okay with all that.
they change the those statutes all the time.
I know.
Kind of have to.
Yeah,
when
we
they
haven't
go,
stayed on
they
top
call
of
it
it.
a nursing home, you need to call it some other term, so. Section 20. So this has to do with that, going back to our practice of dark sky international lighting projects. So I worked with our attorney on that, and this I think is kind of more of a little bit of a Band-Aid until we get into a bigger discussion.
I'll do it.
Still,
But we've, since we don't have a dark sky compliant.
Right.
We've challenged, we can't hold it,
Right, that's why.
right, which we've already been challenged on.
So if it's a regulation and it says that all outdoor lighting should include, and I know it gets a little wordy with the Dark Sky International nonprofit organization and that. But if we can get a lighting expert in and get someone in who really can wrap their
Right,
head around it, we
right.
can continue your practice and then maybe we can clean
Right,
all of it up.
So we should put something in.
so are you saying that we should put this in the meantime,
Well, if you want to go through and, yeah, until,
until the fall when
We get
you
smart.
do what you,
when we get,
yeah.
Well, this
Right, my question is here, okay, so this becomes a regulation.
Mhm.
So all applicants have to, abide by it.
and there's a provision, if there's a conflict between these regulations, dark sky requirements and other safety codes, the commission will decide the requirements to apply that protects health and safety, but is the best measure to minimize light pollution.
But this only would take effect once we go through public notice, public hearing. So anything up till that point is okay the way it is. If they say, I don't want dark, I'm not gonna do dark sky compliant. Right?
Then they're not gonna do it.
Right, they're not gonna do it.
what do you foresee as unintended negative
Consequence?
consequences? of Wanting, at least putting this in here for potential approval.
A conflict between the regulations. And that's why I kind of put that provision, whichever is the strongest.
And would this only apply to, or should it only apply to businesses, commercial? Or should it apply to residential?
So anything in section 68, unless it's multifamily, and it does say this, multifamily, mixed use development, so not residential,
So,
not single family.
so a property owner that has, multiple acres and wants to redo the whole thing can put in any light
Right.
fixtures, poles, spotlights, whatever they want, can illuminate all of Fenwick if they wanted to.
So we have other regulations in here too. So then you get into 68, it gets into maximum luminance density for dark zones, light zones, rural zones. There's another section in the regulations where it says you have to have the property, no light can get emitted over the property line. The regulations already have problems because say you're in a beach neighborhood and somebody elevates their house and they need lights to go down the stairs and they have a variance to be 4 feet over the property line. There's no way you can stop that light from going over the property line.
Right.
And have someone have a safe means of egress. So the thought was if you wanted to add this in and put in kind of this little caveat for now, whichever regulation, other safety code, the commission would just, it would be to your discretion as to which one you go with.
I'm okay with it.
Me too.
Just, when we had the Lynn Street application, everybody was really against the uplighting and saying it's a problem that isn't legal. But this just says, zero up lights are preferred. I mean, wouldn't you say zero up lights or must have zero up lights or no up lights are allowed?
Well, I guess the question is, can uplighting be dark sky compliant?
Yeah, which we don't
No,
know.
you know, that's kind of where this is a tough one.
That's a good question, yeah. But we don't know how to apply to that.
You know,
And until
It
we,
just seemed like something you really wanted to fix.
yeah, I mean, cause
and our attorney
Do-
looked at all of this, by the way, so there was no,
a flagpole. You have up lighting. Some of our down lighting, right? You have landscaping around homes. I mean, perfect example is one of the applicants looking at his home across from police station. It's all up lighting. But it's allowed right now.
And we can't outlaw it yet, because we don't know if we can, because it might conflict.
we
Well-
can, but the thing is, I think we hit this roadblock before.
Yeah.
How much do you know about foot candles, lumens, the difference between halo? I think we need an education.
We need that education.
Yeah. To really fix it, so that's why I call this the Band-Aid. We'll put the Band-Aid on until we can fix it, and then we'll fix it.
It's like maximum luminance density. What the hell is that?
Okay.
You know, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, you might know what it is, but we're not very knowledgeable about lighting. In my tenure on them.
And the lighting standards have changed.
Changed.
What I've learned about lighting,
Yeah.
it becomes so quickly obsolete.
So we may not allow them based on what we learned from a dark sky, or we may allow them up to a certain lumens or something of that nature, you know? Do they look nice? Yeah, they do. They do. The home we had in Pennsylvania, we had all up lighting and all the landscaping. It looks nice in the house.
Can we delete the last sentence of that paragraph that starts with all about the lighting? I just find it's
Where are you? What page? 20?
20. The first paragraph with all underlined.
All outdoor lighting?
Yeah, the last sentence.
That's which one is.
Yeah.
The
That's all
where
one
it starts, Dark Sky certified lighting products and designs are approved by Dark Sky International, a nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting the night environment from light pollution. So it's an advertisement.
That's what dark sky kind of is, though. Dark sky isn't, it's a nonprofit, and that was to try to link it back in and to reflect it.
But we have to advertise for them.
Well,
Everybody-
but this, I think we need to learn a little bit more about.
I agree 100%. My thing is, it just seems interesting.
So if somebody said, what is dark sky compliant? And I pulled this right off of their website. What does that mean? Well, what are they protecting? It just kind of has it spelled out in there and who they are and what it is.
I see your point.
Whatever, I don't-
No, I think for step one, because we're gonna amend these things anyhow, once we go through lighting experts, we can come up.
I'll
with
ask
that
Matt what he
technology.
thinks.
Well, the other thing is it says dark sky certified lighting. It's sort of almost repeating itself, and it's saying, it's almost defining what dark sky certified lighting means. It's a design approved by Dark Sky International. So I think when you say dark sky certified, that does cover it.
So maybe I can just go through and take some of this forwards, dark sky certified above, just have something by Dark Sky International, and then cut out a lot of it, leave something about light pollution.
Does like when you buy the light fixture, it says on the box, dark sky certified? Yeah, so I think as long as you buy something that says dark sky certified, you're
Dark
okay.
Sky is capitalized. It's a
All right.
proper name.
It's funny, we've been requiring this and people complying and doing all these light surveys.
Yeah.
We find out we don't even know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's
Sounds
keep going for now.
Right, right.
Right.
Well, we've had different members over the years, but I think it's
Well,
all
that's true.
changed.
Yeah.
and-
We should be able to stand up for these, justify what we're doing.
I think that's it.
Nice job, Chris.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanted to know about the change in the agenda that I just
Oh.
printed out.
So your agenda that you just got in your packets from 6 to 6:45, we're gonna need to amend it because that's the ferry landing discussion. I forgot to add it on there. We've had so many things going on. So you'll still be here, but from 6 to 6:45, it's the between the
Is
bridges.
there material?
On Wednesday.
We still have to show up at 6.
No, on your next meeting, you have
I'm
one
kidding, I said-
meeting,
Any materials for that?
I'm sorry.
so Wednesday is a meeting for all boards and commissions, just to do an overall presentation. That's before the planning commission meeting. Before your regular meeting on the 20th, or at your regular meeting on the 20th, from 6 to 6:45, because Mark has a conflict, there's gonna be a discussion about a text amendment.
Okay.
And I forgot to add that into the agenda.
Okay.
So that'll get amended, just so that you know, I mean, it's not gonna change the time getting here or anything like that,
And you're gonna call me when everything is done
so that.
with that period so that I can come in? Okay.
It's gonna be a pass.
And will there be any materials for that?
No, that's what I'm aware of.
Okay, so the answer to your question is there will not be
Oh,
any
okay.
material.
There's nothing that's been provided. And I'll go and confirm with the applicant.
So we need a motion to adjourn.
Somebody's gotta make a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Laura. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much for another Monday night.